Chapter 4078 made her happy just thinking about it. When Yun Chujio heard their words, her heart skipped a beat. Without the gigolo by her side, it was not bad to earn some money to spend. Immediately she said to Zhao Hui and the others, "Do you guys want to be rich?" Zhao Hui and the others rolled their eyes. Wasn't this nonsense? Who didn't want to be rich? Especially people like them who were heavily in debt. They wanted to be rich. However, how could they make a fortune? In a few days during the intersect competition, I will think of a way to be the last to appear. All of you bet on me to win. BT as much money as you have. I guarantee that you will make a fortune. Yun Chujio said with a smile. Li Zhuangji and the others were dumbfounded. Are you sure that you will make a fortune and not lose everything? Li Zhuangji couldn't hold it in any longer. He asked, Junior Sister Yun, do you mean that you can beat Liao Tao? Although you have reached the 9th level of psychic power in the Eye of Sword Intent, Liao Tao is at the 5th level of psychic power, and you can't use any supporting techniques during the competition. How can you be his opponent? Yes, Junior Sister Yun. A wise man doesn't lose when the odds are against him. Let's not fight with him. We can challenge him again in the future, Zhao Hui advised. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Don't worry. I have my own way to defeat him. Just listen to me. Liao Tao and the others looked at each other. Although they felt that Yun Chujio was bragging, they did not dare to disobey her. They felt that they were going to be completely broke. The reason why Yun Chujio was so certain was very simple. Although she could not openly use support methods, she could use them secretly. Those drifters were giving her trouble. It was time for them to make a contribution. If there were too many of them, it would be easy for others to notice. 1 or 2 strands wouldn't be a problem. When the time came, Liao Tao would definitely lose his life. Just thinking about it made him happy. Zhao Hui knew that it was very difficult to change Yun Chujio's decision, so he didn't say anything more. Instead, he changed the topic and said, "Oh right, Junior Sister Yun, something big happened these few days. The Flying Flower Island captured an extremely rare blue-tailed giant bone whale. Island Master Qi of the Flying Flower Island has sent an invitation to our Master Ouyang. He has agreed to hold a whale feast on the Flying Flower Island in half a month. It will definitely be a grand event." Yun Chujio curled her lips. Isn't it just a few old men eating and drinking together? What kind of grand event is this? By the way, the meat of the blue-tailed bone whale is very delicious. The corners of Zhao Hui and the others' eyes twitched. Your focus has gone astray, all right? A normal person's focus should be on the gathering of the leaders of the 6 great sections. On the other hand, her focus was on whether the blue-tailed bone whale was delicious or not. Junior Sister Yun, you might not know this, but every 5 years the 6 great sects gather together. It's called a gathering, but it's really a sparring session. This year, it happens to be the Flying Flower Island's turn to be the host. Therefore, this so-called whale feast is just a gimmick. In reality, it's still a competition of strength between the 6 factions. However, every year the 9 pavilions take first place, so the remaining 5 major factions can only compete for second place. In addition, this year's event is held on the Flying Flower Island, which is even more disadvantageous to our Nameless Sword sect. I reckon that the best ranking would be 4th place. After all, there's still the Ascension Island ahead. Zhao Hui explained. Yun Chujio finally came to a realization. However, she had seen too many such tricks. Moreover, they had nothing to do with small shrimps like her, so she just listened to them. It was a pity that she wouldn't be able to taste the blue-tailed bone whale. However, she could ask Old Man Duanmu and Old Man Dongfang to get some for her to try. Chapter 4079 failed to infuse sword intent. The few of them chatted for a while more before Zhao Hui and the others left. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and decided to go to Elder Duanmu's place to brush her face. This way, after a few days, she would be able to ask him to bring back some whale meat for her to taste. When Yun Chujio arrived at Elder Duanmu's No. 1 sword forging hall, this fellow first expressed his gratitude to Elder Duanmu in a serious manner. Then he continued to chat with her. Although Elder Duanmu didn't pay much attention to her, he didn't chase her away and just let her talk. After a while, Elder Duanmu said, I heard that Liao Tao wants to challenge you. What do you plan to do? If you want to fight, then let's fight. Do you think I'm afraid of him? Yun Chujio said indifferently. Nonsense. Your spiritual power is so much weaker than his, and he hates you. Once you fight, he will not show mercy. You might be seriously injured. How about this, you either admit defeat or forfeit on that day. Although your face is a little ugly, it's still better than getting injured. For someone with Elder Duanmu's personality to be able to say so much, he had to say that he was really thinking about Yun Chujio. In fact, he was also puzzled. He had originally disliked this little girl, but for some reason he now wanted to protect her. Perhaps it was because the toughness of her beating the sword billet in the intersect selection had moved him, or perhaps it was because the little girl often came over these days. Although his shameless appearance gave him a headache, he had to say. It had been a long time since he had seen such a genuine child. Hearing Elder Duanmu's words, Yun Chujio shook her head. I will not admit defeat or forfeit. That Liao Tao is not my match at all. Elder Duanmu's face darkened when he saw Yun Chujio's shameless bragging. Nonsense. You're only at the 9th level of psychic power, but that Liao Tao is at the 5th level of psychic power. How can you be stronger than him? Yun Chujio smiled mischievously. That Liao Tao is brainless. Otherwise he wouldn't have been the first to be kicked off the stage last time. I have my own ways to deal with him. Elder Duanmu, let's not talk about this matter for now. Can you tell me the steps to beat the sword billet? I originally wanted to consult Elder Dongfang, but I felt that your attainments were higher, so I decided to consult you. When Elder Duanmu heard Yun Chujio say that his attainments were higher than Elder Dongfang's, he immediately threw the matter of the competition to the back of his mind. His expression also eased up a lot, and he immediately told Yun Chujio the steps to forge the sword. In fact, Yun Chujio had also learned the method to forge a sword from Jian Feng. However, she had not been able to successfully infuse sword intent into it, and she had not had the chance to try it out even after leaving the sword hut. The reason she had asked Elder Duanmu for advice was to find an excuse. Otherwise, there was no way to explain that she knew how to forge a sword. She planned to find a way to repair Elder Duanmu's heaven-cleaving sword after she had learned how to infuse sword intent into it. Seeing that Yun Chujio knew how to do it, Elder Duanmu was so happy that his beard stood up. He felt that this fellow was a genius in forging swords. How would he know that this fellow was tortured by Jian Feng? It was impossible for him not to know. However, when it came to infusing sword intent, Yun Chujio tried several times but failed. Elder Duanmu consoled her, this failure is very normal. All sword forgers need a very long time to succeed. If you practice more in the future, you will definitely succeed. Although Yun Chujio was a little annoyed, she still nodded. Perhaps she could succeed after practicing a few more times in the future. Chapter 4080, Fast or slow as the sky was already dark, Yun Chujio left the number 1 sword forging hall with a dejected expression. As she walked, she pondered over it. Her steps were all correct, so there was no reason for her to fail. Could it be that the chaotic sword intent she comprehended was too strange, so there was no way for her to successfully infuse it? When she thought of the sword intent, this fellow couldn't help but get angry. If it wasn't for the troublemakers, she might have been able to successfully infuse it into the eye of sword intent as well. When she arrived at the courtyard, she had just pushed open the door when the 2 groups of drifters came up to her. However, due to Di Biming's warning, they didn't get too close and only jumped in front of her. Yun Chujio was in a bad mood because she didn't successfully infuse sword intent, therefore she didn't have a good expression towards these drifters. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you guys, would I not be able to comprehend sword intent? Maybe if I knew 10 or 8 types of sword intent, I would be able to infuse sword intent successfully. Get lost. After saying that, Yun Chujio ignored the drifters and went straight into the house. The drifters were stunned for a moment before they gathered together as if they were discussing something. The next morning, before Yun Chujio got out of bed, her identity jade token started to tremble. Yun Chujio looked at it in annoyance and realized that it was from Elder Duanmu. The plan for the day lies in the morning. Quickly come over and practice your sword forging. Yun Chujio, what kind of madness is this old man Duanmu having? If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have asked for sword forging on a whim yesterday. Now she was being targeted. Although this fellow didn't want to go, Elder Duanmu was her backing now and she couldn't afford to offend him. Therefore, this fellow had no choice but to wash up and leave the house with a meat bun in his mouth. However, to her surprise, there were 2 red figures gathered in the courtyard. When they saw her coming out, the 2 figures began to compete with their swords. Of course, this sword was also formed from the red mist. Yun Chujio was puzzled. Did the native Piao and the sword pool Piao start fighting again? Yun Chujio originally did not intend to pay attention to them. However, just as she was about to leave, she was attracted by the fight between the 2 figures. The drifter of the sword pool had also transformed into a human figure to compete with Yun Chujio. However, in order to accommodate Yun Chujio, its speed and moves had been greatly reduced. At this time, when it competed with the native drifter, it was simply dazzling. The meat bun in Yun Chujio's mouth fell to the ground. She had suffered a huge impact. So the sword could still be used like that? So the sword could be used in that way? So the seemingly simple and crude sword could actually have such great power? Looking at her, she realized that the sword pool drifter's sword speed was very fast, but the native drifter's speed was very slow. But even so, the two of them were actually unable to separate? What was going on? Wasn't there a saying that in the world of martial arts, speed was the only thing that could not be broken? How could the indigenous drifter be able to deal with it despite being so slow? This thought flashed through her mind as she realized that the sword pool drifter's sword speed had started to slow down. On the other hand, the indigenous drifter's sword speed had become as fast as the wind. The two of them were actually evenly matched. Following that, the two figures slowed down one moment and then sped up the next. At times, they were extremely slow, and at other times, they were as fast as lightning. However, no matter how the other party changed, the other party would be able to find a corresponding solution. The more Yun Chujio watched, the more fascinated she became. She had long forgotten about the matter of Elder Duanmu looking for her. In the end, she could not help but take out a treasured sword and wave it around. Chapter 4081, The Practice Method of the Fast Sword Intent. Yun Chujio only imitated the movements of the two drifters in the beginning, but later on she was immersed in her own thoughts. She vaguely felt that the two drifters were instructing her on something. Could it be the sword intent? One fast and one slow. Could it be the fast sword intent and the slow sword intent? She could understand one of the drifters using the fast sword that was as fast as the wind. After all, in the world of martial arts, speed was the only thing that could not be broken. However, why was the other drifter still able to withstand the slow sword technique? Yun Chujio could not figure it out no matter what. Hence, she temporarily put down the slow sword technique and began to ponder over the fast sword techniques of the drifters. If she could master the fast sword intent, it would be wonderful. However, what exactly was the fast sword intent? Fast gusts of wind, lightning bolts, and waterfalls flashed through Yun Chujio's mind. These were undoubtedly fast. Could it be that she had to increase the deceleration speed to such a fast speed to master the fast sword intent? Yun Chujio felt that it was too difficult. Her spiritual power could not be compared to the drifters, and her movement techniques were not as agile as the drifters. How could she possibly reach their sword speed? The more Yun Chujio thought about it, the more she felt that it was impossible. Just when she was at a loss, her identity jade token started to tremble again. She impatiently sent her spiritual sense in. Elder Duanmu's displeased voice came from inside. Didn't you say that you were going to come over to train your sword? Why aren't you here yet? Yun Chujio, when did she say that she was going to come over? This fellow shook his head. Since he was at a loss, it wouldn't be too bad to ask old man Duanmu for advice. Therefore, she put away the tree branches and left the courtyard without caring about the drifters on the swings. When she arrived at Elder Duanmu's place, it was already close to noon. Elder Duanmu's face was gloomy, and it was obvious that he was very dissatisfied with Yun Chujio's tardiness. Yun Chujio hurriedly said, Elder Duanmu, I didn't mean to be late. It's because I suddenly gained some insight into sword intent when I was about to leave. Hearing that, Elder Duanmu hurriedly asked, You have gained insight into sword intent? What sword intent? Yun Chujio laughed dryly. I just have some clues, but I haven't completely comprehended it. I was just about to ask for your advice. Elder Duanmu frowned. He felt that Yun Chujio was most likely lying to cover up her lateness, so he asked with some suspicion, Then tell me, what have you comprehended? In the world of martial arts, speed is the only thing that cannot be broken. What I've comprehended is the fast sword intent, but after thinking about it, how can my sword technique be as fast as lightning and sudden wind? So, is it impossible to comprehend the fast sword intent? Yun Chujio said with a little confusion. Hearing Yun Chujio's words, Elder Duanmu knew that she had indeed comprehended something. His expression eased up a little and he said, The fast sword intent is the sword intent that the disciples of our nameless sword sect have comprehended the most. It is also the sword intent that is the easiest to comprehend. If you want to comprehend the fast sword intent, it is useless to just ponder about it. Then what should we do? Yun Chujio's eyes lit up. Did this mean that there was a quick method? Many disciples will go to the waterfall at the back of the mountain to practice their sword speed and comprehend the fast sword intent. If your sword speed is fast enough to pass through the waterfall and there isn't a drop of water on your sword, then you won't be far from comprehending the sword intent. Of course, this is only a supplementary method. It mainly depends on your own comprehension ability, Elder Duanmu said. Chapter 4082, Waterfall Yun Chujio was dumbfounded when she heard Elder Duanmu's words. Why did this method sound so unreliable? Wasn't there a saying that said that water flows faster when it is cut off by a knife? How could it not be stained by water droplets? However, she felt that Elder Duanmu was not a person who would spout nonsense, so she temporarily memorized this method. Then she asked, Elder Duanmu, besides the fast sword intent, is there also the slow sword intent? The fast sword intent was still understandable, but how could the slow sword intent be explained? His sword was as slow as a tortoise. How could he possibly win against the rabbit? Elder Duanmu was stunned by this strange analogy, but he still said, of course there is the slow sword intent, but very few people can master the slow sword intent, and I haven't seen through the profoundness of it. I advise you to focus on comprehending the fast sword intent. After all, the slow sword intent is too difficult. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Then, is it possible to master these two sword intents at the same time? Elder Duanmu was so angry that he was amused. This is simply wishful thinking. Speed and slowness cannot be reconciled. Even if a person can master 2 or even 3 or 5 sword intents, it is impossible to master the 2 opposing sword intents of speed and slowness. You should give up on this idea as soon as possible and focus on studying the fast sword intent. Although Yun Chujio agreed obediently on the surface, she pursed her lips in her heart. This ignorant old man. The drifter had already mastered the 2 sword intents of speed and slowness, and he switched between them very casually. It seemed that the drifter had a much more thorough understanding of sword intents than old man Duanmu. However, the drifter did not know how to speak, which was very difficult to deal with. Seeing that Yun Chujio was absent-minded, Elder Duanmu knew that it would be useless even if he kept her here to train his sword. Thus he said to her, since you have some idea of how to comprehend the fast sword intent, then go to the waterfall at the back of the mountain and practice your sword. Yun Chujio originally had no interest in training her sword, so she immediately skipped away. Yun Chujio found the waterfall that Elder Duanmu had mentioned. She did not expect that there were many disciples gathered near the waterfall. They were practicing their sword in the pool below the waterfall, and they were all drenched like drowned chickens. The corner of Yun Chujio's eyes twitched. Well, it seemed that old man Duanmu didn't lie to her. This was indeed a good place to comprehend the fast sword intent. A few disciples saw Yun Chujio coming over and couldn't help but whisper, the intersect competition is in 2 days. Is Yun Chujio planning to grasp the fast sword intent at the last minute? Is there a need to say that? However, let's not talk about whether she can successfully comprehend it or not. Even if she does, she won't be a match for Liao Tao. She will definitely be beaten up badly by Liao Tao. Definitely. I heard that Liao Tao was so angry that he almost vomited blood because she snatched the right to go to the Eye of Sword Intent. She will definitely not let her off easily. Yun Chujio did not pay attention to these gossips. Her gaze was a little lost as she looked at the waterfall that was rushing down. Could the speed of the sword be faster than the speed of water? This answer was unintentionally affirmative. Based on the speed of the 2 drifters' sword, it was completely possible to achieve it. However, with her current spiritual power level, it was impossible to achieve it. Could it be that she could only wait until her spiritual power level increased before she could comprehend the fast sword intent? Those disciples saw that Yun Chujio was just standing by the pool in a daze and did not jump into the waterfall to practice her sword. They even laughed out loud. This Yun Chujio probably only realized it now. According to her level of spiritual power, it's impossible for her to comprehend the fast sword intent. That's not necessarily true. Didn't she already grasp the chaotic sword intent before? Maybe she can comprehend it just by looking at the waterfall. Ah, that's right. If she can comprehend the quick sword intent just by looking at the waterfall, then my surname isn't Lu. Chapter 4083. Let spar. Yun Chujio turned a deaf ear to these jeers. On the contrary, when she heard them mention the chaotic sword intent, her heart skipped a beat. If the fast sword intent could only be comprehended when one reached an extreme speed, then if she wanted to comprehend the chaotic sword intent, wouldn't she have to reach the extreme disorder? However, that wasn't the case. Back then, when she was randomly brandishing her sword, she had sensed the order in the disorder and obtained victory in the disorder. Then she had vaguely comprehended the chaotic sword intent. As Yun Chujio thought about it, it was like opening a new door. The so-called comprehension of the sword intent was an instant of clarity. It was not really about how much she wanted to practice the sword. If the fast sword intent was not about practicing the sword to the extreme speed, then what was it? Yun Chujio suddenly had an epiphany. She thought of the most appropriate word, relative. That's right, it was relative. It was not absolutely fast. The so-called speed was not about how fast you had to use your sword as long as you could be faster than your opponent. With her current level of spiritual power, it was naturally impossible for her to practice faster than the speed of a waterfall, but she could definitely be faster than her opponent. In order to be faster than her opponent, even if her spiritual power was lower than her opponent's, she could completely do it. That was to predict the opponent's sword moves in advance. The more Yun Chujio thought about it, the more excited she became. She was completely immersed in her own thoughts. The disciples practicing the sword in the waterfall saw Yun Chujio standing by the pool, frowning and laughing at the same time. They thought to themselves, has she lost her mind? At this moment, Yun Chujio pointed at the disciple who said that she had mastered the fast sword intent and was not surnamed Lu and said, "This senior brother who is not surnamed Lu, come out. Let's have a spar." Everyone burst into laughter when they heard Yun Chujio's words. The disciple whose surname was Liu's face turned red. "Yun Chujio, don't you know that disciples are not allowed to fight in private? You are framing me. We are not fighting. We are just sparring. It doesn't matter even if we go to the discipline hall. Don't tell me that you don't dare to have a spar with me?" Yun Chujio crossed her arms and said mockingly. How could the disciple with the surname Lu admit defeat? Moreover, his spiritual power level was at the third level of Spirit Absent Realm. Although he couldn't be compared to Liao Tao and the others, he was still 3 levels higher than Yun Chujio. Naturally, he was confident. However, he still said, "Sparring is fine, but it's just a sword technique sparring. You can't use those messy things of yours." Yun Chujio smiled lightly and said, "Of course. Not only do I not use those things, but I also don't know how to use the sword intent of chaos. Do you dare to compete with me?" Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the disciple surnamed Lu sneered and said, "Since you want to humiliate yourself, then I will grant you your wish." After saying that, the disciple surnamed Lu came up from the pool and walked to an empty space not far from the pool. The other disciples who practiced swordsmanship also stopped practicing swordsmanship and gathered around to watch a good show. They felt that Yun Chujio was so arrogant that she did not know what was good for her. Did she really think that she could win every time with bad water? She was going to be unlucky today. The disciple surnamed Lu knew that Yun Chujio was full of evil, so he did not say anything more and directly took out his treasured sword and stabbed at Yun Chujio's throat. While Yun Chujio dodged, the treasured sword in her hand also stabbed at the vital point of the disciple surnamed Lu. Soon more than 10 moves had passed, but the two of them did not have a winner. The onlookers were somewhat impressed by Yun Chujio. Although Yun Chujio's spiritual power was low, her movement was fast enough. However, her spiritual power was low, and she would fall into a disadvantage sooner or later, unless she used the sword intent of chaos. However, she had already said before that she would not use the sword intent of chaos, so she would definitely lose. Chapter 4084. She had comprehended the fast sword intent. The disciple surnamed Lu had a smug look on his face. Although this Yun Chujio was stronger than he had imagined, it had only been 10 moves. He had enough confidence to defeat her. Thinking of this, the disciple surnamed Lu tightened the sword technique in his hand and abruptly increased his offense. Yun Chujio's eyes deepened. If she had used the sword technique she had learned from the cliff, she would have been able to defeat her opponent. However, she wanted to try out the idea of the fast sword intent that she had comprehended previously. She had a premonition that she was only a layer away from comprehending the fast sword intent. During the process of exchanging blows, she might be able to break through this layer of shackles. Hence, Yun Chujio's sword moves also began to accelerate. To be exact, every time she attacked, it was just a coincidence that she was slightly faster than the disciple with the surname Lu. However, it was this slight difference that caused the disciple with the surname Lu to instantly fall into a disadvantageous position. He was extremely vexed. Why did Yun Chujio, who was on the opposite side, use a sword move that he had already deciphered before he had even used his sword move? Could it be that she knew how to predict it? Those disciples who were watching the show had also seen through the trick and were shocked. Normally, the two of them would fight according to their moves. How could Yun Chujio have prepared a deciphering move in advance like this? This Yun Chujio was really strange. How did she determine the opponent's sword move? Yun Chujio naturally could not calculate. However, she had already learned the sword technique on the cliff. The 7-star sword technique used by the disciple surnamed Lu was simply too simple for her. As long as she put in a little effort, she would be able to guess his next sword move. This fellow felt that even if he could not comprehend the fast sword intent, it was not bad to have such a harvest. It seemed that no matter what he did, he had to use his brain. Perhaps it was because he had relaxed his state of mind, But this fellow's sword technique was even faster and as swift as the wind. He did not even need to specially think about the other party's next move. He could already use the method to break it before the other party made his move. Yun Chujio felt that this was too interesting. As a result, this fellow had completely forgotten about this sparring match. He had also forgotten about the disciple with the surname Lu. He had even forgotten about the other disciples around him. His entire body and mind were immersed in a mysterious state. She was happy, but it was hard on that disciple with the surname Lu. In the beginning he was annoyed that Yun Chujio could always guess his next move. However, he did not even have the time to be annoyed because Yun Chujio's swordsmanship had suddenly become faster. Moreover, there was a substantial sword intent around him. He was forced to retreat repeatedly and was so angry that he cursed. Yun Chujio, you said that you wouldn't use the sword intent of chaos. Why didn't you keep your word? However, Yun Chujio was immersed in a mysterious feeling, so she naturally couldn't hear his shout. Moreover, the sword was even faster than the wind as it stabbed towards the disciple named Lu. The disciple with the surname Lu was forced into a corner. He could only jump into the pool to escape from Yun Chujio's attack. Although Yun Chujio was in a mysterious state, she was instinctively alert to danger. Therefore, when she reached the pool, she did not continue to chase after her. Instead, she began to practice her sword. The disciple with the surname Lu gritted his teeth and cursed in the pool. It was nothing more than saying that Yun Chujio did not keep her word. Finally, a disciple who was watching the show said, "Junior brother Lu, stop shouting. I don't think Yun Chujio used the sword intent of chaos at all. It looks like the fast sword intent." Yeah, I've seen someone use the fast sword intent before. Although it doesn't seem to be the same as what Yun Chujio used, it's not far from the truth. Tithiste, I didn't expect her to comprehend the fast sword intent after standing by the waterfall for a while. It's so infuriating. Chapter 4085 You are catching fish? The disciple surnamed Lu could not help but be dumbstruck as he listened to the discussions of the crowd. He raised his head to look at Yun Chujio, who was practicing her sword. There was already a sword intent that seemed to be corporeal around her body, and the speed at which she was practicing her sword was getting faster and faster. He could only see the afterimages. Could it be that she had really comprehended the fast sword intent? The disciple surnamed Lu recalled what he had once said. If Yun Chujio had comprehended the fast sword intent, his surname would not be Lu. He immediately wished that he could find a hole to hide in. He was afraid that Yun Chujio would ridicule him after she woke up. He could not care about anything else and immediately climbed out of the pool, wanting to escape. However, just as he climbed ashore, Yun Chujio's sword arrived. It almost scared him to death. He quickly jumped back into the pool. Yun Chujio, are you crazy? We agreed to spar. Are you trying to kill me? The disciple with the surname Lu shouted in anger. However, Yun Chujio did not react at all and continued to practice her sword. The disciple thought that Yun Chujio would not attack him anymore, so he climbed up again and was scared back into the water. The disciple was so angry that he almost died. This Yun Chujio was doing it on purpose. A disciple who was watching the show said, "She may not want to kill you, but she has fallen into a mysterious state. Her remaining consciousness is still competing with you, so when she saw you appear, she naturally wanted to compete with you." Although the disciple with the surname Lu was so angry that he was twitching, he could only accept this explanation. However, the sky was about to turn dark. If this damn Yun Chujio did not wake up, would he have to stay in the water? If he stayed in the water until the next morning, he would turn into a seaweed. Fortunately, after 4 hours, Yun Chujio woke up. She looked at the sky and then looked at the disciple with the surname Lu, who was gnashing his teeth in the pool. She said in puzzlement, "Eh? Senior brother Lu, aren't we competing with swords? Why did you jump into the water? To catch fish?" The disciple named Lu was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Catch fish. He was almost soaked into a fish. A disciple beside her asked tentatively, "Junior sister Yun, have you comprehended the fast sword intent?" Yun Chujio nodded. "Yes, it's all thanks to your advice. Thank you very much. See you later." Yun Chujio left happily. Those disciples looked at each other. It was all thanks to their advice. How did they give her advice? If they had the ability, they would have comprehended the fast sword intent long ago. Damn it, this person could not be compared to others. They had been practicing their swordplay here day and night without any gains. That pervert had comprehended the fast sword intent after staying here for a while. It was really unreasonable. However, when they saw the disciple surnamed Lu who had just crawled out of the water, they felt that they were at least a little stronger than him. This person was really unlucky. On the other side, Yun Chujia's heart was filled with joy. Although she had yet to make any progress with the slow sword intent, it was still not bad for her to have mastered the fast sword intent. This incident had reminded her of one thing. She could not always stay in the courtyard behind closed doors. If she were to come out and interact with people more often, she might gain additional benefits. The disciples of the Nameless Sword sect would not have thought that just because this fellow had such an idea, they would be unlucky in the future. This fellow soon arrived at his own courtyard. After pushing open the courtyard door, the drifters swarmed over as usual. It was rare for Yun Chujio to smile at them like a spring breeze. Little babies, your performance today was not bad. In the future, if you have nothing to do, practice your swordsmanship. It'll get you some more fun things. Although the two groups of drifters did not know what Yun Chujio meant by fun things, they still floated around Yun Chujio cheerfully. Chapter 4086. Was it because the road was uneven? The next day, Yun Chujio woke up early in the morning and began to fiddle around in the yard. This guy thought that since these drifters liked swings, they would definitely like seesaws and slides. Therefore he spent nearly 2 days to make a few seesaws and a big slide. However, before the drifters could play, this guy had already played with Buttface dozens of times. Buttface was full of praise. Little fairy, you are so talented. I, Buttface, have never admired anyone, but I am full of admiration for you. I love you so much that I can't extricate myself. Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered with him. Just when she was having fun, the drifters slipped into the house. Yun Chujio knew that someone was coming. She didn't need to look to know that it must be Li Zhuangji and the others. Sure enough, after a while they heard the voices of Li Zhuangji and the others. After Yun Chujio opened the courtyard door, Li Zhuangji and the others walked into the courtyard. However, when they saw the seesaw and slide in the courtyard, they were dumbfounded. Junior sister Yun, you said yesterday that you had something important to do. Could it be that you're building these things? Zhao Hui asked with a stiff expression. Yun Chujio nodded proudly. That's right. How do you think I'm doing? Let me tell you, I'm a good carpenter who has been delayed by cultivation. The corners of everyone's eyes twitched. Junior sister Yun, you better watch out. Tomorrow is the day of the intersect competition. You actually have the time to build these things. Aren't you a little too ambitious? After an awkward silence, Zhao Hui asked, Junior sister Yun, I heard that you have comprehended the fast sword intent? Although you have already comprehended 2 sword intents, you are still not Liao Tao's match. Are you really confident of winning? Why don't you admit defeat just like us? Yun Chujio smiled lightly and said, Of course I'm confident. You guys just follow my instructions. If you win this time, I won't withhold the money and keep it for your wives to use. Zhao Hui and the others, however, seeing that she was so relaxed, they couldn't say anything more. They chatted for a while and then left. However, just as they left the house, they fell like dogs gnawing on mud. It was a crisp fall. Li Zhuangji muttered, It's really strange. How come when I come to junior sister Yun's place, my legs don't listen to me? I've fallen so many times. Yeah, could it be that the road is uneven? It looks quite flat too. It's really strange. Yun Chujio, who was in the courtyard, heard their muttering and the corner of her mouth twitched. It wasn't the road that was uneven, it was all the work of the drifters. They simply felt that Li Zhuangji and the others had disturbed them from playing with their new toys. This was their revenge. However, this reminded her. Therefore, after Li Zhuangji and the others had gone far away, Yun Chujio waved at the 2 groups of drifters who were having a great time. After saying a few words, those drifters immediately jumped up and seemed to be gloating. The next day, the monthly intersect competition began. Everyone was waiting for a big show. It was the battle of revenge between Liao Tao and the others. After Li Zhuangji and the other 3 entered the arena, they directly admitted defeat. Although it was a little embarrassing, everyone was not surprised. In any case, they would lose even if they fought, so they might as well just admit defeat. At the very least, they would not get hurt. Could it be that this big show of revenge was over just like that? At this moment, Liao Tao entered the arena. His opponent was naturally Yun Chujio. Everyone shook their heads. They reckoned that Yun Chujio would also admit defeat voluntarily. It was really boring. Chapter 4087 was lacking such a disciple. Just as everyone was guessing, the bet in the southeast corner of the square exploded. There was no other reason. Not only did Zhao Hui help Yun Chujio bet 5 million upper-grade spirit stones, but each of them also bet 1 million upper-grade spirit stones on Yun Chujio's win. After everyone was stunned, two thoughts suddenly appeared in their minds. One was that it seemed that Yun Chujio would not admit defeat. She was going to fight to the death with Liao Tao. The second thought was, the opportunity to make a fortune has come. Therefore, the gambling game was extremely popular. In order to let everyone finish betting, the manager in charge of the gambling game specially informed Manager Gao, who was in charge of the competition, to delay the start of the competition. Manager Gao was naturally happy to do a favor by following the flow. He secretly shook his head. The last time he saw Yun Chujio she was quite smart. Why was she so unwise this time? It would have been fine if she had just admitted defeat, but she still insisted on fighting. It would have been fine if she had fought, but she had actually thrown so many spirit stones. Wasn't this digging a hole for herself? Just as Manager Gao was thinking, he saw Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang coming over. The two of them were still worried, so they came over to take a look. If Liao Tao wanted to kill her, at least they could save Yun Chujio's life. Yun Chujio saw that her two strong supporters had come. She jumped over to brush her face for a while, and then she walked in front of the arrogant Liao Tao. Senior brother Liao, I advise you to admit defeat now. Otherwise, if you lose to me again, how will you face others? Yun Chujio said with a smile. Liao Tao hated her to death. He gnashed his teeth and said, Yun Chujio, I won't talk nonsense with you. When the competition begins, I will make you regret it. Yun Chujio shrugged her shoulders. She was a very kind person. She had already advised him so sincerely. Since he still didn't give up, then it wasn't her fault. This guy narrowed his eyes and glanced at the two drifters who were hiding in the corner of the competition stage. His heart was filled with joy. With the help of the drifters, it would be a piece of cake to deal with this Liao Tao. Was a pity? For some reason, after these drifters left the Eye of Sword Intent and the Nameless Sword Sect, they could only hide in the puppet plate. Otherwise, who would dare to provoke her? They wouldn't die. After a while, the bet was over, and Manager Gao rang the copper bell that signified the start of the competition. Liao Tao didn't say anything and directly raised his sword to stab. Yun Chujio didn't directly let the two drifters attack. After all, Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang were watching from not far away. She had to let Liao Tao lose without leaving a trace. Moreover, this fellow also wanted to test the power of the swift sword intent that she had mastered in the chaotic sword intent. Hence, she focused her attention on fighting with Liao Tao. Elder Duanmu had just heard that Yun Chujio had comprehended the swift sword intent. He was very gratified. This little girl's comprehension was not bad. She had actually comprehended the swift sword intent. However, even if she had comprehended two types of sword intent, she would still not be a match for Liao Tao. She would definitely lose, but only for a short period of time. Elder Dongfang's thoughts were similar to Elder Duanmu's. He said in a low voice, although this little girl is definitely going to lose this competition, I have to say that this little girl's rate of improvement is really astonishing. Although her spiritual power is a little low now, this is not a problem. She will definitely become a great disciple in the future. This old man is lacking such a disciple. Hearing Elder Dongfang's words, Elder Duanmu became a little wary. This old man wasn't thinking of taking the little girl as his successor disciple, was he? No, he had to strike first and find an opportunity to settle this matter first so that this old man wouldn't snatch it away. Chapter 4088. The Power of the Drifter. Just as Elder Duanmu was thinking about this, he heard the exclamations of the crowd. He looked up and saw that Yun Chujio had been forced to the edge of the competition stage by Liao Tao. Was she going to lose? Liao Tao's face revealed a vicious expression as he raised his sword and stabbed towards Yun Chujio's heart. The humiliation that this wretched girl had brought to him was finally going to be washed away. Even if this strike did not take her life, it would still cause her serious injuries. Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang both stood up. Just as they were about to attack, they saw Yun Chujio activate her swift sword intent. A layer of sword intent appeared in front of her body and blocked Liao Tao's treasured sword. Elder Duanmu shook his head. If it was an ordinary attack, she would have no problem blocking it with her sword intent. However, Liao Tao had also used his swift sword intent in this move. With the two counteracting each other, she was still unable to dodge this move. Elder Duanmu raised his hand and was about to push Liao Tao back when he was surprised to find that Yun Chujio had another layer of sword intent in front of her. It was the chaotic sword intent. How was this possible? Although there were many people who could comprehend more than two types of sword intent, he had never heard of anyone who could use two types of sword intent at the same time and superimpose their effects. Was he seeing things? Elder Duanmu wasn't the only one. Elder Dongfang, who was beside him, was also dumbfounded. He even pinched Elder Duanmu fiercely. Elder Duanmu grimaced in pain and said exasperatedly, "Why did you pinch me?" Elder Dongfang laughed dryly. I'm sorry. I wanted to pinch myself but I accidentally pinched the wrong one." Elder Duanmu, however, he did not have the time to compete with Elder Dongfang right now. He stared intently at the situation on the stage. Liao Tao was obviously very surprised as well. His sword was forcefully blocked by Yun Chujia's dual sword intent. Yun Chujio took advantage of the time when he was in a daze to leap out of his attack range. This fellow was also very confused. She was totally in a hurry just now. She had already thought it through. If the two sword intents could not be stacked together, she would not have the time to use Xiao Hanyo. She could only let the little black bird curse. She did not expect that the sword intents could really be stacked together. Did she discover something amazing? Just when this guy was feeling pleased with himself, he never thought that the two wisps of Xiao Hanyo would hate Liao Tao because of what had happened just now. They did not wait for Yun Chujio to make an attack gesture and directly floated in front of Liao Tao. However, Liao Tao was just about to attack Yun Chujio, so he was in deep trouble. Liao Tao's entire body lay firmly on the stage, and the treasured sword in his hand directly flew off the stage. Everyone was shocked by this unexpected turn of events. Oh my, is this Liao Tao intimidated by Yun Chujio's sword intent just now? Why is he even prostrating himself? Forget it, if he did it on purpose would he lose the sword in his hand? He must have been scared, so his steps were unsteady and he fell. TSK, although Yun Chujio's sword intent is quite abnormal, isn't Liao Tao too timid? He was so scared that his legs went soft. Liao Tao almost vomited blood when he heard the crowd's discussion. He also wanted to know what the hell was going on. How did he fall down all of a sudden? However, he reacted very quickly. He was afraid that Yun Chujio would use this opportunity to attack him, so he immediately rolled on the ground and left Yun Chujio's attack range. However, when he was about to jump up, he fell heavily onto the ground. Moreover, because he used too much strength, his front teeth were knocked off. Chapter 4089 did not make a loss. Liao Tao stared blankly at the two front teeth that had left him on the ground. He was completely dumbfounded. Who was he? Where was he? What was he doing? He was only at the 5th level of Spirit Absent Realm, but he had actually fallen down twice in a row. This was simply making people laugh their heads off. Not far away, although Yun Chujio was somewhat dumbfounded by the two wisps of Drifter's performance, it was fortunate that she reacted very quickly. Just as Liao Tao was staring at the front teeth in a daze, she leaped over and kicked him under the competition stage. After a moment of silence, everyone exploded. Oh my, the competition is over? Liao Tao is too useless, right? He was actually scared to such an extent by Yun Chujio's stacked sword intent? TSK, no wonder he lost so miserably in the last competition. He is too timid. Exactly, if he was not scared out of his wits, he would not have fallen twice in a row. His legs are so scared that they are weak. Although Liao Tao really wanted to faint, other than his front teeth being broken, he didn't suffer any injuries. He couldn't faint even if he wanted to. Yun Chujio glared at the two drifters who were already hiding in the corner. She first confirmed the results of the competition, then walked in front of Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang. Elder Dongfang's eyes were filled with praise. Little girl, how did you manage to stack the sword intent? Yun Chujio gave a brief explanation before saying, at that time, I tried to release two sword intents consecutively in a moment of desperation. I didn't expect that it could really stack. This was also a coincidence. When Elder Dongfang and Elder Duanmu heard this, they tried to release the sword intent according to Yun Chujio's method. However, they were unable to stack the two sword intents. The two old men could not help but sigh. Could it be that this little girl was the only one who could superimpose the sword intents? The two of them did not stay any longer. After giving Yun Chujio a few more instructions, they left. Yun Chujio also left the competition stage happily. After taking a few steps, Liao Tao stood in front of her with a ferocious look on his face. Yun Chujio, just you wait. However, due to the broken front teeth, Liao Tao's pronunciation of these words was a little strange. Not only did it not have a threatening effect, but it also attracted the laughter of the surrounding crowd. Liao Tao was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He glared at Yun Chujio for a few times before he was persuaded to leave by a few disciples he was on good terms with. However, Zhao Hui, Li Zhuangji and the others were extremely excited. They had struck it rich. They escorted Yun Chujio to the gambling house to collect a large amount of spirit stones. Then they went to the cafeteria to have a big meal before they separated. When Yun Chujio returned to the courtyard, the two wisps of drifters behind her also floated in with a smug look. They felt that they were awesome. Unexpectedly, Yun Chujio pointed at them and said fiercely, "Who asked you to make the decision on your own accord?" Putting aside the fact that it would affect me, Elder Dongfang and Elder Duanmu were sitting at one side of the competition stage. They were so close to each other and the two of you were acting like demons. Weren't you afraid of being discovered? Are you fearless or are you brainless? You two idiots. Fuck off. The two wisps of Piauta suddenly did not show off before Piauta to the corner, the rest of the Piauta is a look of schadenfreude. Yun Chujio ignored them and went straight into the house. Xiao Hanyo of Spirit Beast Bag Inside Incomprehension asks, "Master, don't you hate those Piao very much? How do you still fear them to be discovered?" "If they are discovered, I'm afraid I won't be able to get away with it either. Moreover, these Xiao Hanyo tortured me so miserably before. Now that I finally have some use for them, if anything happens to them, won't I lose my life? I won't do such a loss-making business," Yun Chujio said faintly. Chapter 4090, Gather at the Upper House Square in the next few days. The news of Yun Chujio comprehending the superposition of sword intent spread throughout the nameless sword sect. The disciples who had already comprehended two types of sword intent in the sect tried to attempt the superposition of sword intent, but all of them failed. Everyone had to admit that not everyone could do the superposition of sword intent. Now it seemed that only Yun Chujio, that pervert, could do it. However, Hei Shinjio was not very happy because she still had not successfully infused her sword intent. Could it be that she really did not have the talent to forge swords? Elder Duanmu had originally wanted to take Hei Shinjio in as a successor disciple before Elder Dongfang, but now that she was still unable to infuse her sword intent, he could not help but hesitate. No matter how talented Yun Chujio was, he was a sword forger. If he could not infuse his sword intent into a successor disciple, what kind of disciple was she? Therefore, he decided to put this matter aside for the time being and observe it again. Yun Chujio tried infusing her sword intent for a few days but failed. Hence, she did not go to Elder Duanmu's place and instead stayed in the courtyard to practice her sword with the shadow of the drifter. Of course, Hei Shinjio was tortured miserably. It was simply too horrible to look at. It was extremely tragic. Fortunately, Hei Xinjia's character was tenacious. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been tortured to a point where they had no hope of living. On this day, just as Yun Chujio was being tortured by the drifter, a message was transmitted from her identity jade token, telling her to gather at the upper houses square. Yun Chujio could not help but feel very puzzled. She was now an inner sect disciple. Even if there was anything to gather, she would only go to the middle houses square. Why was it that she was going to the upper houses square this time? When Yun Chujio arrived at the square of the upper court, she realized that everyone present was an elder and a true disciple. Yun Chujio was even more puzzled. What was he going to do? Just as she was feeling suspicious, Zhuang Hong walked over and berated, "Yun Chujio, what are you doing here? Don't you know that the lowest qualification to attend the whale feast this time is to be a true disciple? Hurry up and leave." Yun Chujio felt that this Zhuang Hong was like a mad dog. Whenever he saw her, he would bark a few times. Sooner or later he would teach him a good lesson. Yun Chujio took out her identity jade token and waved it. "I didn't come here by myself. It was the Miscellaneous Affairs Hall that informed me to come." Zhuang Hong sneered. "You really have a habit of lying. How could the Miscellaneous Affairs Hall make such a mistake? You must be trying to cause trouble, so you lied and said that you received the news. I'm warning you, leave immediately. Otherwise, I'll get the Discipline Hall to chase you away." Yun Chujio was not a good-tempered person to begin with. Zhuang Hong kept finding fault with her again and again, and this fellow was instantly enraged. "Martial Uncle Zhuang, I respect you as an elder, so I've tolerated you many times. Don't give me face and don't be shameless. Let's not talk about the fact that I did receive the notice. Even if I did not receive the notice, it seems that maintaining order is not your responsibility, right? Could it be that you want to experience the power of the sect leader in advance? TSK, I really can't wait." Zhuang Hong's face suddenly flushed red. Yun Chujio's subtext was clearly saying that he could not wait to take over as the sect leader and wanted to replace him. These words were really too harsh. If this were to reach Master Ouyang's ears, although he couldn't do anything about it, he would definitely be unhappy. "You're spouting nonsense. Today I must teach you a good lesson for being disrespectful to your elders." Zhuang Hong flew into a rage out of humiliation and reached out to draw his sword. Chapter 4091 headed to the Flying Flower Island. At this moment, a stern shout was heard, "Stop!" Zhuang Hong was about to pull out his sword when he suddenly stopped. He turned around and saw that it was Master Ouyang who had spoken. Zhuang Hong did not know why, but he felt a little flustered. He hurriedly explained, "Master, only true disciples have the right to participate in the whale feast. Yun Chujio is purely here to cause trouble. I tried to persuade her to leave, but she contradicted me. That's why Alright, there's no need to say any more. I was the one who asked the Miscellaneous Affairs Hall to inform her. This time I'll make an exception and bring her to the whale feast." Master Ouyang interrupted Zhuang Hong's words, and his expression was a little unhappy. Recently Zhuang Hong's performance had made him more and more dissatisfied. He was even worse than Zhang Li, who had been demoted. Although Zhang Li was a little blunt, at least he had a sense of propriety when doing things. This Zhuang Hong was getting more and more arrogant. Zhuang Hong had wanted to ask why he had brought an inner sect disciple, Yun Chujio, to the whale feast. However, seeing Master Ouyang's unfriendly expression, he did not dare to ask. Master Ouyang said to Yun Chujio, "Island Master Qi of the Flying Flower Island has taken into consideration that you were once the southern continent's female emperor of Zephyr, and has specially given you an invitation. I cannot refuse, so you will go to the whale feast with us." Yun Chujio never thought that this was the reason. However, it was good to go out for a walk. There were so many people, so she wasn't afraid of causing any trouble. Thus this fellow agreed with a smile. Master Ouyang nodded and continued to walk towards the square. Zhuang Hong glared at Yun Chujio and quickly followed. Yun Chujio pursed her lips. He was a fool who didn't know his own limits. Even if she didn't make a move, old man Ouyang would probably take care of him. The moment he thought that he could go out for a walk, he immediately threw this unhappiness to the back of his mind. After a while, Master Ouyang began to speak. He only mentioned some things to take note of during the whale feast and informed everyone that they would be leaving in 2 days. After Yun Chujio returned to the courtyard happily, she said to the drifters, "I'm going to the Flying Flower Island to attend the whale feast in 2 days. Do you guys want to stay in the sect or follow me out for a stroll?" The two groups of drifters were obviously not well behaved. They immediately scrambled to jump up, indicating that they were willing to go with Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio had long expected this. She was willing to bring these drifters along. Perhaps it would be helpful to her. On the morning of their departure, the drifters obediently entered the 3 puppet discs. Yun Chujio kept them and went to the meeting place. She looked around. Since this was a gathering of the 6 sects, Master Ouyang naturally had to personally lead the team. However, he was afraid that Elder One would be restless in the sect, so Elder One also went with them. Elder One was not an ordinary person. He was afraid that Master Ouyang would have some tricks up his sleeve, so he left Wan Qingba in the sect. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Master Ouyang immediately summoned his flying spirit tool and everyone set off. The journey was very smooth. A few days later, everyone arrived at the Sea of All Things where the Flying Flower Island was located. As soon as they arrived at the seaside, the disciples of the Flying Flower Island came to welcome them and led them to a luxurious ship. On the ship, there were maids and servants. They prepared tea and spirit fruits for everyone, making them feel at home. Not only that, there were also sharp-tongued disciples on the deck who helped everyone introduce the situation of the Sea of All Things and the Flying Flower Island. Their attitude was very appropriate. Yun Chujio thought to herself that the Flying Flower Island was well versed in the way of treating guests, making people very comfortable. Chapter 4092 Water Well, the Flying Flower Island was very far from the shore. The ship sailed for a full 2 days before they finally saw a densely packed island in the distance. The Flying Flower Island didn't just refer to an island. Such a large area, or even half of the Sea of All Creation, was within the territory of the Flying Flower Island. The reason why it was said that half of the Sea of All Creation was because the Sea of All Creation was bounded by a trench. South of the trench was the territory of the Flying Flower Island, while north of the trench lived high-level sea beasts. The people of the Flying Flower Island didn't dare to set foot in it. The blue-tailed giant bone whale they captured this time was a high-level sea beast that had accidentally entered the shallow sea. It was very rare to see it, and they had to work together to subdue it. Otherwise they would not have used it as a publicity stunt. The big ship did not sail to the main island. Instead, it docked at the side of an island not far from the main island. Before the big ship docked, there were already people waiting on the dock. Master Ouyang, elders, my island master originally wanted to come over personally to welcome you, but he still had to prepare for the whale feast. I'm really sorry. Everyone, please follow me to Hibiscus Island to rest for the time being. This way, please, Elder Jia, who was in charge of receiving them, said warmly. The people from the Nameless Sword sect were not dissatisfied with this. Although Island Master Qi did not come over personally to welcome them, he still sent Elder Jia, who had a rather high status on the island, to welcome them. This could be considered as giving the Nameless Sword sect enough face. Yun Chujio walked at the back of the group and looked around. She had already heard from the disciples of the Flying Flower Island that the islands of the Flying Flower Island were basically named after flowers. Hibiscus Island was considered one of the larger islands among the many islands. Hibiscus flowers could be seen everywhere on the island. It was a lively scene. The Flying Flower Island had obviously put in a lot of effort for this whale feast. Not only had they specially chosen 5 islands to be the temporary residences of the 5 great sects, but they had also built an exquisite guest house. Moreover, there were maids and servants in the guest house. Elder Jia exchanged a few more pleasantries with Master Ouyang before taking his leave. The journey was tiring as everyone went to the guest house that was allocated to them to wash up and rest. Yun Chujio followed a maid to the guest house that was allocated to her. Although the courtyard wasn't big, it was very clean and tidy. Yun Chujio was somewhat surprised. She thought that little bitch Xiaoyu would take the opportunity to frame her, but she didn't expect that she would worry too much. Even so, after the maid left, Yun Chujio still checked inside and out before her gaze finally landed on a well. Yun Chujio carefully walked to the edge of the well and looked down. There was indeed water inside. If she was not more observant than others, she might not have suspected anything. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. She thought that Xiaoyu, that little bitch, had turned over a new leaf, but she did not expect that she was still the same person. The appearance of this well in her courtyard was clearly abnormal. One had to know what was the most scarce thing on the island? Without a doubt, it was fresh water. Such a scarce well naturally had to be set at a place where it was convenient for everyone to fetch water. It was not an exaggeration to even send people to guard it, but now it had appeared in her guest courtyard so casually. It was simply too abnormal, alright? Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. Should she move to another courtyard? This fellow rolled his eyes and suddenly thought of a way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. After a simple wash and rinse, she strolled to the small training field set up in the guest courtyard. It had to be said that the Flying Flower Island was very considerate. Not only was there a living room in the guest courtyard for discussion, there was also a small training field set up. Chapter 4093 Octopus had taken the bait. When Yun Chujio arrived at the training field, many of the successive disciples were practicing their sword techniques. After all, the ultimate goal of the whale feast was to compete with these successive disciples. A few successive disciples were surrounding Zhuang Hong and practicing their sword techniques, looking as if they were trying to curry favor with him. Half of the successive disciples of the Nameless Sword sect were old disciples of the same generation as Zhuang Hong, and the other half were new disciples of the same generation as Yun Chujio. Whether it was in terms of seniority or spiritual power, the old disciples naturally had the advantage and were firmly ahead of the new disciples. Therefore, although they were all successive disciples, their statuses were different. Zhuang Hong was an old disciple, and moreover he was the sect master's successive disciple. Naturally, many people would curry favor with him. Zhuang Hong's gaze swept over Yun Chujio, and his expression immediately became unsightly. In order to curry favor with him, the disciples next to him. He mocked, "Some people are really lucky. They are clearly not true disciples, but they still came to participate in the whale feast. They only need to eat and drink. Anyway, they are not true disciples, so they don't need to participate in the competition. They are really idiots." "Haha, right, you are right, she is an idiot." When Yun Chujio heard these people, she immediately rushed in front of them angrily. "Who are you talking about? All of you shut up. Otherwise I will go to the sect leader and complain. I will kill all of you." How could those disciples be afraid of Yun Chujio's threat? They all winked and said, "Yun Chujio, if you have the ability, then go and complain. We don't believe that the sect leader will punish us for such a small matter. You should cherish your idiotic quota. Otherwise, with your talent, you won't have the chance to participate in such a grand event in your lifetime." Yun Chujio's small face flushed red. She was obviously furious. However, she immediately said proudly, "Humph. So what if my quota is a gift? Let me tell you, I still have a well in my courtyard. What is the most lacking thing on Hibiscus Island? Fresh water. You will soon be unable to wash properly because of the lack of fresh water, but am not afraid. After all, the well is in my courtyard. What does this mean? It means that the people of the Flying Flower Island also look at me in a different light. So what if some of them are the disciples of the sect leader? Is there a well in your courtyard? Yun Chujio looked at Zhuang Hong provocatively after she finished speaking. She looked as arrogant as she could be. When those disciples heard Yun Chujio's words, they were stunned at first, then they became indignant. Yun Chujio, if you know your place, then give up the courtyard. How can you have the right to live in such a good courtyard? That's right, you don't deserve to live in such a good courtyard. Among us, only Martial Uncle Zhuang has the right to live in a courtyard with a well. Hurry up and give the courtyard to Martial Uncle Zhuang. Yun Chujio, if you know your place, then forget it. Otherwise, don't blame us for forcefully kicking you out. Yun Chujio's face was filled with anger and a little fear. You're unreasonable. That's clearly my courtyard, why should I give it to Martial Uncle Zhuang? I won't give it up today, what can you do to me? One of the disciples curled his lips and said to Zhuang Hong, Martial Uncle Zhuang, let's go to her courtyard now. We want to see if she has the guts to fight with you for the courtyard. Although Zhuang Hong did not say anything, he followed the disciples out of the martial arts practice field. He had always thought highly of himself and naturally wanted a courtyard with a well. Yun Chujio looked at the backs of the crowd and her eyes flashed. The fish had taken the bait. Chapter 4094. Chu Fang. Although He Xingjiu was happy, she looked angry and wanted to chase after him. However, she heard someone say weakly, Junior Sister Yun, please wait a moment. Yun Chujio turned her head and saw that the person who spoke was also a core disciple. He had a handsome face but his body was a little thin. Yun Chujio had some impression of him. When she was in the Eye of Sword intent, she had sneaked into the seat of a core disciple. She had talked to a core disciple and asked him if he saw the fog. It was this disciple in front of her. At that time, when Zhuang Hong had made things difficult for her, he had even tugged at her clothes and reminded her not to offend Zhuang Hong. Yun Chujio had a good impression of him. When that person saw Yun Chujio looking at him, he smiled a little awkwardly. Then he lowered his voice and said, Junior Sister Yun, it's just a guest house. We'll be leaving after staying for a while. They have the advantage in numbers. Why do you have to be so serious with them? It won't be worth it if you suffer at that time. Yun Chujio was not a fool. She naturally knew that he had good intentions, so she said with a faint smile, Thank you for your advice, senior brother. How should I address you? Which elder is your disciple? The disciple scratched his head embarrassedly. My name is Chu Fang. My master is Elder Gu. Although Yun Chujio did not have much contact with Elder Gu, she felt that the old man was not bad, so her impression of Chu Fang became even better. So it's senior brother Chung. I'm going to rob my courtyard now. He'll come and play with you another day. See you later. Yun Chujio didn't wait for Chu Fang's reaction after she finished speaking and hopped off. Chu Fang, so what he said just now was all for naught? This junior sister Yun was too stubborn. He thought about it and decided to follow behind. Although many people in the sect said that Yun Chujio was no good, he felt that this junior sister Yun was very different from the rest. Yun Chujio realized that Chu Fang was following her, so she did not bother about him and went to her own courtyard. At this moment, Zhuang Hong and the others were sitting in the courtyard, obviously planning to occupy this courtyard. Although Yun Chujio was eager for Zhuang Hong to seize this courtyard, she had to sing the whole opera. If she gave up the courtyard to him easily, he might be suspicious. Yun Chujio stood at the door with her hands on her hips, pointing at Zhuang Hong and the others and scolding, Shameless. Don't you feel embarrassed for taking over someone else's courtyard? Get out of here quickly or I will really go to the sect leader and complain. Zhuang Hong snorted coldly, Yun Chujio master is very busy right now. If you disturb him over such a small matter, you will not have a good ending. Yun Chujio clenched her fists, her eyes were red with anger. In the end she stomped her feet. You're ruthless. We'll see about that. After Yun Chujio said that, she ran out of the courtyard amidst the laughter. Chu Fang saw Yun Chujio running out with red eyes. He hesitated for a moment, but still chased after her and asked carefully, Junior Sister Yun, are you okay? Yun Chujio silently shook her head, but her eyes were still red. Chu Fang sighed and said, Junior Sister Yun, just bear with it. Martial Uncle Zhuang has always been a true disciple. He only fears Martial Uncle Wan a little. You can't beat him. Yun Chujia's heart moved when she heard Chu Fang's words. She had originally planned to go to Zhuang Hong's courtyard, but now she had turned around and returned to the martial arts practice field. When she arrived at the martial arts practice field, Yun Chujio sat pitifully on a large rock. She did not say anything, only shedding a few tears. Chapter 4095. A little white lotus. The martial arts practice field had already gathered many successive disciples who practiced the sword. When they saw Yun Chujia's expression, they were all very curious. Some of them who knew what had happened before began to ramble on about what had happened. Everyone shook their heads. Although they were not familiar with Yun Chujio and their impression of her was also average, Zhuang Hong, as the sect leader's disciple, had actually stolen a junior's courtyard. This was really a little too much. Yun Chujio portrayed a little white lotus in a lifelike manner. From time to time she would sob a few times. Her small body even started to tremble. She looked like she was being bullied but did not dare to say anything. Everyone sympathized with the weak. Seeing her like this, even though they were not familiar with her, they felt a little more pity and comforted her. The general meaning was that it was just a courtyard. If he wanted to snatch it, so be it. Don't take it to heart. Yun Chujio gratefully nodded to everyone and wiped away her tears before leaving. This time Chu Fang did not follow her. Firstly, he saw that Yun Chujio seemed to be fine. Secondly, he was not familiar with Yun Chujio. Hence, he did not see Yun Chujio walk out not far away. Her originally pitiful face revealed a trace of a smile. Yes, it was a very sinister one. She was really looking forward to that little bitch Xiao Yu and Zhuang Hong biting each other. Perhaps there would be a good show to watch tonight. When that time came, it would definitely be very interesting. Zhuang Hong's courtyard was not too far from Yun Chujio's original courtyard. Yun Chujio simply tidied it up and began to cultivate. When the sky turned dark, this fellow excitedly jumped onto the roof, munching on melon seeds as he prepared to watch a good show. This fellow was actually very curious. What exactly was that Xiao Yu planning to do? After thinking about it, it was just that someone would crawl out from the well. Could it be that she wanted to kill her? This was unlikely. After all, if she was killed in the guest courtyard, Flying Flower Island would also be implicated. Or was she planning to poison her to death? It was also unlikely. If she wanted to poison her, there was no need to go through so much trouble. He was really curious. This guy waited for a long time, but he did not hear any movement from the other side. He was so sleepy that he yawned, so he could only go back to his room to rest. While he was half asleep, he suddenly heard Zhuang Hong scream. Hei Xinjiu instantly opened her eyes. Oh my, the show has begun. This guy did not even bother to put on his shoes. He jumped onto the roof as soon as he stepped out of the door and stretched his neck to look at Zhuang Hong's courtyard. He could vaguely see that many of the courtyards were lit up by candlelight. There were also people rushing over in a hurry, and Zhuang Hong's howling could be heard in the midst of it. Although Hei Xinjiu was extremely curious, this guy did not dare to go over to watch the commotion in order to avoid suspicion. He would definitely find out the next day anyway. Zhuang Hong's howling could be heard for almost half the night. Hei Xinjiu felt that the sound was too damn beautiful and it could be used as a lullaby. The next day Yun Chujio woke up early, which was rare. After breakfast, she strolled to the martial arts practice field. There were many disciples gathered on the martial arts practice field, but they did not practice their swords. Instead, they were talking excitedly about what happened last night. Have you heard? Martial Uncle Zhuang was in a terrible state last night. If Elder One had not arrived in time, he would have been eaten by that monster. What monster? It's a sea beast called the iron-clawed poisonous octopus. I don't know how it crawled into the well. The well leads to the spring at the back of the mountain. Maybe the iron-clawed poisonous octopus crawled in from the spring. Not only is the iron-clawed poisonous octopus extremely strong, it's also extremely poisonous. I heard that Martial Uncle Zhuang's face was destroyed. I don't know if he'll be able to recover in the future. Chapter 4096. Killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Yun Chujio listened to everyone's discussion and sneered in her heart. So this was Xiao Yu's plan. Although there were many loopholes in this explanation, as long as there was no conclusive evidence, Master Ouyang really couldn't say anything. After all, this was just an accident, wasn't it? The iron-clawed poisonous octopus was a level 70 sea beast, which was equivalent to the 5th to 6th layer of the nirvana of the soul. Even Zhuang Hong didn't have the strength to fight back, let alone her. If she had not changed her courtyard, even if she was not injured, she would have exposed her secret. was a close call. As expected, she had to be more careful in the future. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, the disciples who were discussing shifted the topic to her. Junior sister Yun is really blessed. If martial uncle Zhuang had not insisted on snatching her courtyard, she would have been the unlucky one. That's right. Even martial uncle Zhuang's spiritual power was seriously injured. If it were junior sister Yun, she would probably not be able to keep her life. That's right. So this person's fate is destined. It's impossible not to believe in fate. Junior sister Yun is truly a blessed person. Yun Chujio was secretly rejoicing in her heart. What a bullshit fate. This was all planned by her, alright? Although those people were discussing animatedly, no one suspected that all of this was done on purpose by Yun Chujio. After all, many people had seen He Xinjia's sad and angry appearance with their own eyes yesterday. On the contrary, everyone felt that Yun Chujio was a blessed person who had avoided a calamity by accident. Therefore they no longer rejected Yun Chujio as much as before. They even invited Yun Chujio to practice sword techniques with them. Yun Chujio was naturally more than happy to do so. If she wanted to establish herself in the nameless sword sect, she had to first have her own power. These core disciples would be the pillars of the sect in the future. It would be beneficial to have a good relationship with them without any harm. These core disciples all used the space-shattering sword technique. They originally thought that Yun Chujio wouldn't be able to withstand even 10 of their moves, but they didn't expect Yun Chujio to use the 7-star sword technique to withstand more than 30 moves. Everyone looked at Yun Chujio in a new light. Although she had borrowed the effect of the sword intent stacking together, this was also her ability. That afternoon, Yun Chujio heard the follow-up progress of the matter from these disciples. Island Master Qi personally came to see Master Ouyang. He apologized and gave Zhuang Hong some elixirs and spirit tools to express his apology. Although Master Ouyang was unhappy, he couldn't do anything about it. After all, this was the territory of the Flying Flower Island. In the end, he could only let it go. However, because the poison of the Iron Claw poisonous octopus was very overbearing, although Zhuang Hong's life was not in danger, his face was completely ruined. Even if he recovered in the future, there would be ugly scars left behind. Yun Chujio finally came to a realization. That little bitch Xiao Yu probably had this idea all along. Even if she lived in that courtyard, she wouldn't really kill her. Instead, she would destroy her appearance. How vicious. She narrowed her eyes. Xiao Yu didn't manage to plot against her this time, so she was probably so frustrated that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that she had done this matter beautifully. She only said a few words and shed a few tears. Not only did she avoid Xiao Yu's plot, but she also tricked Zhuang Hong. In the end, she even got into a relationship with those successive disciples. It was simply killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Just as Yun Chujio was feeling happy, Chu Feng ran over. Junior sister Yun, the sect leader wants you to go to the living room. Tower Master Luochen is here and wants to see you. Yun Chujio really wanted to say no, but thinking about it, since she had already come to the whale feast, it was inevitable for her to meet Lan Luochen. She might as well go over openly. She wanted to see what this scum wanted to do. Chapter 4097 Yun Chujio walked unhurriedly into the living room, and it was filled with cheers and laughter. Yun Chujio laughed coldly in her heart. Look, even the personal disciple of the sect leader, Zhuang Hong, was disfigured, but wasn't everyone still living happily? If it wasn't for her vigilance, she wouldn't even have a place to cry. Therefore she had to remain vigilant at all times. This fellow sighed as she walked in. The moment she walked into the guest hall, everyone stopped joking and their gazes fell on her. Tower Master Luchen's gaze was deep as he looked at Yun Chujio, but he averted his gaze in an instant, as though the two of them had never interacted before. Xiao Yu watched from the side and her heart rejoiced. Could it be that Tower Master Luochen had already given up on this slut? If that was the case, wouldn't she have a chance? Yun Chujio didn't even glance at Tower Master Luochen, so she naturally didn't notice the change in his expression. She obediently greeted Tower Master Ouyang and the others. Tower Master Ouyang smiled and said, Tower Master Luochen mentioned that you represent the southern continent this time, so he asked you to come over and talk about this whale feast. Yun Chujio said some polite words and thought to herself, well put, the nonsense about representing the southern continent might not be a bad idea. However, with the light of representing the southern continent, Yun Chujio managed to get a seat. Although she was at the end of the line, she was at least better than those who were standing. Not only were Island Master Qi and Tower Master Luochen present, Island Master Luo of Ascension Island, Sect Master Qin of Xuanwu Sect, and Sect Master Huang of Xuanji Sect were also present. They must have come to watch the show. After all, Zhuanghang's matter could be big or small. After Yun Chujio took her seat, everyone continued to discuss about the whale feast. Island Master Qi smiled and said, "This whale feast is easy to handle. I only need to ensure that everyone eats to their heart's content. It's just that we can't let those juniors idle while eating and drinking. We have to let them show off, right?" Sect Master Huang of Xuanji Sect laughed loudly. Island Master Qi, it's an old rule to compete once every 10 years. Why are you beating around the bush? Just tell me, how does your Flying Flower Island want to compete? Seeing this, Island Master Qi couldn't keep him in suspense any longer. He smiled and said, "Our Flying Flower Island has a trial island which is specially used for disciples' trials. Danger lurks everywhere on the island. Even if we join forces, we can only stay there for 10 days at most." Hearing this, Sect Master Huang and the others were immediately interested. Even if they joined forces, they could only stay there for 10 days at most? This trial island was rather interesting. Sect Master Huang asked with a faint smile, "This trial island is indeed interesting. I just don't know what the rules are. How do we determine the victor? Also, your Flying Flower Island's disciples are very familiar with the trial island. Isn't this taking advantage of us?" Island Master Qi said with a smile, "As usual, each sect will send out 50 disciples. The limit is 3 days. In the end, whichever sect has more people will win. Of course, because our Flying Flower Island has the geographical advantage, we will only send out 20 disciples to participate in the competition. What do you all think?" Sect Master Huang and the others looked at each other. This method of competition was not bad. Moreover, the Flying Flower Island only sent out 20 disciples, which was considered fair. Therefore, Sect Master Huang and the others nodded their heads in agreement. Seeing this, the smile on Island Master Qi's face became even brighter. Since everyone has agreed, then this lottery will still be 1 billion upper-grade spirit stones from each sect. How about it? Hearing this jackpot, Yun Chujio couldn't help but twitch her lips. With such a grand display, she had thought that the reward would be very generous, but it turned out that it was only so little. Chapter 4098 That she did not know whether to say or not. Yun Chujio did not even think about it. Each clan had 1 billion, which added up to 6 billion. To the 6 great sects, it was definitely not a small amount. After all, there were not many people in this world who were richer than her, the Iron Rooster. Moreover, the ultimate goal of the 6 great sects was not to split these spirit stones, but to get a good ranking. Ranking represented strength. The higher the ranking, the more authority one had. The more small and medium-sized forces came to seek refuge, which also meant that there would be more and more money. Following that, everyone began to discuss some details. Hei Shinjio was focused on fighting with the tea and snacks on the table. Anyway, this had nothing to do with her. Zhuanghong was right. She was just here to eat for free. After everyone discussed the general idea, it was also time for dinner. Hei Shinjio originally thought that Tower Master Luochen and Xiaoyu would come up with something, but everything was as usual. Tower Master Luochen did not even speak to her. Nothing happened until the end of the banquet. Yun Chujio could not help but wonder why Lan Luochen and Xiaoyu were so quiet. Could it be that they were hatching some bad ideas? Unexpectedly, when the banquet ended, Tower Master Luochen walked to Yun Chujio's side. Yun Chujio frowned and was about to use the excuse to leave when she heard Tower Master Luochen say, "Little Jio, I've thought through some things during this period of time." Yun Chujio's footsteps paused. This Lan Luochen had completely come to a realization? Had he decided not to pester her in the future? Tower Master Luochen looked at her with a burning gaze, then he said, "Little Jio, I forced you too hard in the past, so you had a bad impression of me. Don't worry, I won't force you in the future. I believe that one day you will accept me. Also don't worry. No matter what you do to me, my feelings for you will not change. Unless I die, I will not give up on you." Everyone heard Tower Master Luochen's words and sighed in their hearts. This Tower Master Luochen really had a deep affection for Yun Chujio. It was just a pity that the falling flower was intentionally flowing water without any emotions. This Yun Chujio really did not know how to cherish it. However, Tower Master Luochen's words were so touching this time. Perhaps she would agree to it. Xiaoyu almost broke the handkerchief in her hand. She originally thought that Tower Master Luochen had given up on this bitch Yun Chujio. She did not expect him to have such deep feelings for her. It was simply infuriating. She had to think of a way to kill this bitch Yun Chujio. Otherwise, she wouldn't have the chance to marry Tower Master Luochen. Just as everyone was looking at Yun Chujio with eager eyes, the corners of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. I have something I want to say to Tower Master Luochen, but I don't know if I should say it. Tower Master Luchen's eyes lit up, and his entire person seemed to brighten up. Say it, just say it. Yun Chujio said word by word, what I want to say is, you can go to hell. Instantly everyone fell silent. They never expected Yun Chujio to say such a sentence. The meaning of this sentence was self-evident, which was to make Tower Master Luochen give up completely. Xiao Yu looked at Yun Chujio and did not know how she felt in her heart. On one hand, when she saw Yun Chujio reject Tower Master Luochen so resolutely, she heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. But at the same time she felt indignant. Yun Chujio, this ungrateful bitch, actually rejected Tower Master Luochen so decisively. Was she blind? Tower Master Luochen was stunned at first, then the light in his eyes completely dimmed, and his entire being seemed to sink into gloom. Chapter 4099 was abandoned like a broken shoe. Yun Chujio's entire body tensed up. She was on full alert. She planned in her heart that once Tower Master Luochen made trouble, she would rush behind Tower Master Ouyang. He wouldn't be able to do anything to her. Tower Master Ouyang frowned. Just as he was about to defend Yun Chujio, he saw Tower Master Luochen laughing into the sky. He was laughing so hard that tears were coming out of his eyes. Yun Chujio shrunk her neck. Was she crazy? Fuck, it would be better if she laughed to death. In the midst of shock, Tower Master Luochen stopped laughing. He said to Yun Chujio, Little Jiu, you are still so interesting. You are right. Between you and me, we will not rest until one of us dies. So as long as I still have a breath left, I will not give up. After saying that, Tower Master Luochen did not care about Yun Chujio's reaction. He turned around and left. Master Ouyang and the rest also left, but Xiao Yu stayed behind. She looked at Yun Chujio coldly and said, Yun Chujio, Tower Master Luochen is deeply in love with you, but you abandoned him like a broken shoe. You are really blind. Yun Chujio chuckled and said, Miss Xiao Yu, since you have the time to mind your own business, why don't you train a few more iron-clawed poisonous octopuses? After all, there are still a few wells on Hibiscus Island. Xiao Yu's expression changed and she roared, You, what nonsense are you spouting? Yun Chujio shrugged her shoulders. It's just a joke, why are you so nervous? There's an idiom that says enough is enough. Miss Xiao Yu, go back and experience it properly. Alright, let me remind you that there are only two outcomes for those who oppose me. One is that they are already dead and the other is that they are about to die. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she did not care about Xiao Yu's reaction and hummed a little tune as she left. Xiao Yu was so angry that her head was buzzing. She had always been smooth sailing. Other than being rejected by Tower Master Luochen, she had never encountered such humiliation. Yun Chujio, you are courting death. Xiao Yu gritted her teeth and stared coldly at Yun Chujio's back before turning around and leaving. After a while, a person stood up from behind a bush a few hundred feet away from their conversation. It was Chu Fong. Yun Chujio and Xiao Yu did not lower their voices, so Chu Fong listened intently. He did not mean to eavesdrop, but he had come to find Elder Gu for some matters. He did not expect to hear their conversation. His expression was a little dull because he had captured some information from their conversation. Could it be that junior sister Yun had deliberately switched courtyards with Martial Uncle Zhuang? Could it be that everything had been planned by junior sister Yun? This was too terrifying. She had only said a few words and shed a few tears, but she had already caused Martial Uncle Zhuang's face to be disfigured? Chu Fong could not help but rejoice. Fortunately, he had not offended Yun Chujio. Otherwise, he probably would not even know how he died. Yun Chujio did not know that Chu Fong had already seen through her true colors of the Black Lotus. After this fellow returned to the courtyard, he pondered over the matter just now. She had a feeling that Xiao Yu definitely had a backup plan. Also, that Lan Luchen's words were even better than his singing. She had to be careful. The next day the whale feast began. The whale feast was divided into 3 parts. The first part was for everyone to eat and drink together. Everyone would be happy and everyone would be happy. After that, the matters of the competition would be announced. The second part was the main event, which was the competition between the 6 great sect's successive disciples. After the competition ended, it was the third part of the whale feast. Everyone would gather once again to eat and drink. At the same time, They would summarize the situation of the competition and split some spirit stones. Then the whale feast would come to an end. However, to Hei Xinjiu this whale feast was just 2 good meals and she could also watch the fun. Unexpectedly, on the first night of the competition, Yun Chujiu was called over by Master Ouyang. Chapter 4100 Jade Token. After Yun Chujiu arrived at the place, she realized that not only was Sect Master Ouyang there, Elder Wan and the others were also there. This fellow was a little apprehensive. What happened? After Master Ouyang saw her, he went straight to the point and said, each sect has to send 50 true disciples to participate in the competition tomorrow. Originally, our nameless sword sect had 50 disciples, but Zhuang Hong's injuries haven't improved. I'm afraid he won't be able to participate in the competition. So, we've discussed it and decided to let you take Zhuang Hong's place to participate in the competition. You don't have to worry. Every disciple who enters the trial island will carry a jade token with them. As long as the jade token is activated, it will be sent outside. There won't be any danger. Yun Chujiu, what happened to coming here for free food? What happened to coming here to watch the show? This fellow thought again. Zhuang Hong was tricked by her. Did this count as throwing a stone at her own feet? After all, if Zhuang Hong wasn't injured, he wouldn't have let her take his place. This fellow had always been tactful. Since so many people were present, it was obvious that they had discussed this beforehand. She had to agree or not. Hence, this fellow nodded her head and agreed without hesitation. She even swore to give it her all. The corners of everyone's eyes twitched. You're just a passerby. I reckon that you'll be eliminated as soon as you enter. What's the use of fighting? The next day, the disciples of the 6 great sects who wanted to participate in the competition gathered on the main island of the Flying Flower Island. Island Master Qi of the Flying Flower Island said some things to take note of. It was nothing more than words like, no flying and no talisman. He then distributed a jade token to everyone. Hei Xinjiu had suffered a loss from a jade token, so this fellow secretly broke the jade token in his hand into 2 pieces. Then he raised his claws and said, why is this jade token of mine broken? Please give me another one. Xiao Yu's pupils constricted as she clenched her teeth in anger. She had indeed done something to the jade token, but why was the jade token broken all of a sudden? Of course, she did not suspect that Yun Chujiu was the one who broke it. She only thought that it was her subordinates who did not do a good job and was filled with resentment. The person in charge of distributing the jade token was sweating profusely, but it was not good to do anything in front of everyone. He could only give Yun Chujiu a jade token that had no problems. Hei Xinjiu put the jade token into her storage ring and curled the corners of her mouth. These were all tricks played by others. Couldn't they be a little more creative? Seeing that there was nothing else, Island Master Qi signaled that the teleportation formation could be activated. After everyone stepped into the teleportation formation, a dazzling light flashed and everyone disappeared from the spot. The teleportation formation was randomly scattered. Therefore, when Yun Chujiu regained her sight, there was no one else around. Just as she was about to look around, she heard the sounds of a fight coming from not far away. Oh, they were fighting already? She retracted her aura and moved closer to the place where the fight was taking place. She realized that it was someone she knew. Chu Feng and Fang Jing were fighting with a strange-looking demon beast. The demon beasts on Trial Island were all illusions, and they were different from the demon beasts in real life. Many of them had combined several types of demon beasts together, making them even more powerful. For example, the demon beast in front of him had the powerful body of an earth-type demon beast, as well as the wind blade attacks of a gold-type demon beast. Chu Feng was forced to retreat continuously, and he was in a sorry state. Yun Chujiu looked at the direction of the wind and ran to the upwind. She shouted clearly, "Hey! Ugly freak, release my senior brother Chu quickly or I'll kill you." Chapter 4101 Rao Beast. Both the demonic beast and Chu Feng were stunned for a moment, but Chu Feng's reaction was faster. Taking advantage of this moment, he leaped to Yun Chujiu's side and said loudly, "Junior sister Yun, this demonic beast is very difficult to deal with. Let's go quickly." Yun Chujiu nodded and ran forward with Chu Feng. However, as this guy ran, he secretly turned his head to look. The demonic beast was stunned for a moment before it roared and chased after them. Hei Xinjiu narrowed her eyes. Her all-purpose chili noodles was about to appear again. Just thinking about it made her a little excited. The demonic beast suddenly threw a big sack of chili noodles behind it. That unlucky demonic beast didn't know that humans had such a sinister trick. It choked miserably. Chu Feng was also dumbfounded. Just as he was about to turn around and deal with the demonic beast with Yun Chujio, he heard Yun Chujio say with a smile, "If you have to spare the beast, spare the beast. Let it live." Chu Feng was stunned, but he did not refute and continued to run with Yun Chujio. The demonic beast was choked with tears. However, when it heard Yun Chujio's last sentence, it was a little touched. This human girl was different from others. Yes, she was kinder. If it had heard the conversation between Yun Chujio and Chu Feng, it would not have thought so. After running for a distance and confirming that they were safe, Chu Feng asked in puzzlement, "Junior Sister Yun, why didn't you take the opportunity to kill that demonic beast just now?" Yun Chujio replied, "It's just a mirage beast. You can't eat meat if you kill it, so why waste your spiritual energy?" Chu Feng, Yun Chujio looked around. The environment here did not look any different from an ordinary island. They were all common plants on the island. Other than the demonic beast that she had just encountered, there did not seem to be any danger. Of course, this fellow knew that this was just a facade. She hadn't forgotten what Island Master Chi had said. Even if the sect leaders of several sects joined forces, they would only be able to stay on the trial island for 10 days at most. Could be seen how dangerous this place was. Chu Feng came back to his senses and said, "Junior Sister Yun, the most important thing now is that we find other disciples first. This way, our chances of survival will be higher." Yun Chujio nodded. The more people there were on the trial island, the more secure they would be. This was because not only did they have to fight against the demonic beasts, they also had to be wary of the people from other sections. After all, this was the way to ensure victory. Unfortunately, after walking for a while, the two of them did not find the Nameless Sword sect's people. Instead, they were blocked by the 6 disciples of the mysterious Fog sect. The 6 disciples of the mysterious Fog sect laughed out loud. "What good luck to actually meet 2 little weaklings who are alone. Do you want to activate the Jade tokens yourselves, or do you want us to help you activate the Jade tokens?" Chu Feng's face turned pale. It was over. 2 against 6, was there still a way to survive? Moreover, Junior Sister Yun was an inner sect disciple. Although she was ranked within the top 100, it was said that she had risked bad water to obtain it. Could it be that she could only activate her Jade tokens? However, they had been eliminated right at the beginning of the trial. It was too embarrassing. Unlike Chu Feng, Yun Chujio had a calm expression on her face. She said unhurriedly, "Senior brothers, we are not your match anyway. Can you allow me to say a few words?" The 6 people saw that Yun Chujio was polite and tactful, so they said casually, "Say it. You are going to be eliminated anyway. I don't think you can play any tricks." "Senior brothers, how do you estimate the ranking of this competition? What do you think the final ranking will be?" Yun Chujio asked with a smile. Chapter 4102 would be enough, one of the disciples said. "The 9 pavilions is the strongest, and the Flying Flower Island is the host. Even if they send fewer people, they would probably get the 2nd place. Since Ascension Island is also an island sect, they would probably get the 3rd place. As for the remaining 3 sects, we are evenly matched. It is normal to rank at the front or the back. It is really hard to estimate." Hearing that, Yun Chujio nodded. "This senior brother is obviously far-sighted. Your analysis is correct." Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the disciple showed a proud expression. "Although you are very good at talking, I won't let you off. Can't be helped. This is a competition. Don't blame us for being merciless." Yun Chujio still had a faint smile on her face. She said unhurriedly, "Senior brothers, are you interested in doing something big together?" This time, it wasn't just the 6 people from the mysterious Fog sect. Even Chu Feng felt that Yun Chujio was 80% mentally ill. What nonsense was she spouting? Yun Chujio continued, "You just said that if your mysterious Fog sect and our Nameless Sword sect went through the trial step by step, they would definitely not be able to enter the top 3. But what if our 2 sects join forces? Although I can't guarantee that we will be able to bring down the 9 pavilions, it's more than enough to deal with the other 3 sects. When that time comes, regardless of whether you guys are ranked 2nd or we are ranked 2nd, this will be something that everyone will be happy about. What do you guys think?" The 6 members of the mysterious Fog sect and Chu Feng had dumbfounded expressions on their faces. So the trial can be played like this? They could even join forces to deal with other sects? They had never heard of such a method. However, when they thought about it, this method was too damn good. Gathering the strength of two sects to deal with one sect was as easy as floating in the air. This method was absolutely feasible. However, the mysterious fog sect disciple who spoke just now thought of a crucial question and said with a sneer, "This method of yours is naturally good. But can you be the master of your nameless sword sect? I don't know who he is, but I do know you. Aren't you that Yun Chujio from the southern continent? I heard that you're just making up the numbers this time. Will those successive disciples listen to you?" Yun Chujio straightened her back. She said with a hint of arrogance, "As the saying goes, the orders of a ruler outside are not to be taken. What successive disciples and inner sect disciples are all matters outside of the trial island. In this trial island, strength is respected. If they don't agree, it'll beat them into submission." As soon as Yun Chujio said this, Chu Fang staggered. "Junior Sister Yun, did you beat them into submission or did they beat you into submission?" The 6 people from the mysterious fog sect clearly had the same thoughts as Chu Fang. They thought that this Yun Chujio was too shameless. How could a weakling like her beat others into submission? Just as they were thinking about it, Yun Chujio said, "Don't look down on me. Back then, I was only the daughter of a minister from a third-grade small country in the southern continent. What happened after that? Didn't I still become the female emperor of the towering Sky Empire? Sometimes, my brain is better than my martial strength. You guys are so suspicious of me. Could it be that you guys don't have any credibility in the mysterious fog sect?" Yun Chujio's method of goading them was immediately effective. The 6 people from the mysterious fog sect immediately expressed how they were in the mysterious fog sect. It was nothing more than bragging about their status in the mysterious fog sect. Of course, the reason why they were so confident was mainly because Yun Chujio's method was really brilliant. They were not afraid that the other disciples would not agree. Chapter 4103 had recruited 6 bodyguards. Yun Chujio waited until they were almost done bragging before she said with a smile, "Senior brothers, I naturally believe what you said. You should also believe me this time. Since the 2 of us can't affect the overall situation, why not take a gamble? When the time comes, if our 2 sects achieve very beautiful results, you will also have a good reputation in the sect, right?" The 6 people looked at each other and felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense. The 2 of them would not be able to stir up any big waves. Even if the alliance did not succeed in the end, there would not be any losses. They immediately said, "All right, then I will spare you for the time being. You guys can go." Hearing this, Chu Fang's heart was finally relieved. Just as he was about to run away, he realized that Yun Chujio had no intention of leaving. Chu Fang was stunned. Was Junior Sister Yun stunned? Shouldn't she leave quickly? Wasn't she afraid that the people of the mysterious fog sect would go back on their words? Just as he was puzzled, he heard Yun Chujio say with a smile, "Senior brothers, we have already formed an alliance. Naturally, we have to act together. Having more people means more effort, right?" Chu Fang was about to cry. She was asking for the skin of a tiger. Wasn't she afraid that the 6 of them would change their minds on the way? The 6 people from the mysterious fog sect were stunned for a moment, but they finally agreed. She was right. Although her spiritual power was nothing to be proud of, the other person's strength was not bad. It would be good to have more help. Therefore, the 6-person line became 8-person line. After walking for a while, Hei Shinjio blinked her eyes and said, "Everyone, it's too eye-catching for so many of us to act together. Why don't I be the bait? How about a mantis stalks the cicada and a oriole follows behind?" Chu Fang and the others opened their mouths wide. They more or less believed what she said about her brain being better than her martial arts. This guy was too mean. Therefore, Yun Chujio hummed a little tune and walked in front. Chu Fang and the others followed her at a distance, waiting for the unlucky guy to take the bait. It was also a coincidence. They did not walk far before they met a disciple of Flying Flower Island. When that disciple saw Yun Chujio who was alone, he immediately blocked the way with a sinister smile on his face. He said, "Oh, isn't this the famous Yun Chujio? I heard that you offended Junior Sister Xiaoyu a few times. You really have guts." Hearing his words, Yun Chujio only looked at him with a smile. However, that smile was very scary when he looked at that disciple. He said with a fierce expression but a weak heart, "What are you laughing at? Are you crazy? Die." Yun Chujio leaped to the side and dodged his attack. Then she said, "I'll activate the jade token myself. There's no need for you to do anything." That disciple snorted coldly. "You want to activate the jade token? That depends on whether you have the time or not. You're dead for sure today. Yun Chujio was stunned. Senior brother, what do you mean? This is just a trial. If I activate the Jade token, it means that I admit defeat. Why do you still want to kill me? The disciple sneered. TSK, are you really stupid or are you pretending to be stupid? You offended our junior sister Xiaoyu and you still want to leave here alive? Dream on. Yun Chujio's eyes deepened. It seemed that the people of Flying Flower Island really wanted to kill her. If she had encountered the attacks of many people from Flying Flower Island alone, she might not have had the time to activate the Jade token. Fortunately, she had already kidnapped the 6 idiots from the Mystic Fog sect as bodyguards, so she could not kill him. If the 6 people from the mysterious Fog sect knew that this fellow had completely used them as bodyguards, they would probably be so angry that they would vomit blood. Yun Chujio whistled as she thought about it. Chu Feng and the others were already impatient from waiting. In an instant, they surrounded the disciple. Chapter 4104 Robbery. Don't let him have the time to activate the Jade token. Go. Yun Chujio shouted suddenly. Although Chu Feng and the others did not understand Yun Chujio's intention, they were in a hurry and almost subconsciously rushed forward. The disciple did not expect Yun Chujio to have a helper, and there were so many people. They were imprisoned on the spot without any resistance. Not to mention activating the Jade token, they could not even move. Yun Chujio looked at him with a smile and said to Chu Feng, Senior brother Chu, help me beat him up. As long as he lives, it will be fine. Chu Feng, why did he have to beat her up? She did not know how to beat herself up? Yun Chujio seemed to see through his doubts and said faintly, she is a girl. It is not good to be too barbaric. The corner of Chu Feng's eyes twitched. His impression of Yun Chujio's Black Lotus was even more profound. He immediately punched and kicked the disciple. The disciple was beaten until he wailed like a ghost. This is against the rules. When I get out, I will definitely seek justice. You will definitely be punished. Chu Feng's movements slowed down. Yun Chujio said faintly from the side, against the rules? Since this is a competition, we can't avoid fighting. Let alone hurting you. Even if we kill you, who would know? The disciple was both afraid and angry. Our island master can replay everything that happened on the trial island through the array. If you kill me, you won't have a good ending. Yun Chujio was stunned. So there was such a thing. If someone harmed the disciples of the Flying Flower Island, Island Master Qi would check what happened on the trial island. But if Lan Yu killed her, Island Master Qi would find an excuse to say that there was a problem with the array and there was no way to replay it. TSK, how thoughtful. That disciple thought that Yun Chujio and the others were afraid. He immediately said arrogantly, I've been caught by you. I admit defeat. Let me go and I'll activate the Jade token. I'm warning you. If you continue to attack, I guarantee that you won't be able to get better after you get out. Chu Feng and the 6 people from the mysterious Fog sect were indeed a little afraid. After all, there was a rule that no one's life would be harmed. If they were really discovered, it would not be easy to handle. What everyone did not expect was that Yun Chujio held a large kitchen knife and slashed the leg of that disciple. Although she did not cut it, it made the disciple scream like a pig. He screamed in pain as he screamed, Yun Chujio, you, what me? I'm telling you, I've already recorded your previous threat to kill me. When that time comes, even if your Island Master Qi makes things difficult for me, I'm not afraid. At most, I'll fight to the death. Now, I'll give you a chance. Hand over all the valuable things on your body, or I'll cut off your legs. If you don't believe me, let's try. Yun Chujio still said these words with a smile. In the eyes of that disciple, that smile was like the king of hell urging him to die. When that disciple of Flying Flower Island saw that Yun Chujio was going to do it for real, he was instantly afraid. He immediately handed over all the things in his storage ring. Yun Chujio looked at it. Although she was not very satisfied, she knew that there was no more profit to be made. She then signaled for him to get lost. Although the disciple was gnashing his teeth in hatred, he did not dare to complain. He activated the Jade token and disappeared in front of everyone. Yun Chujio smiled and said to the 7 stunned people, Come, let's divide the spoils of war first. Although it's a little less, this is our first profit. Congratulations. After Yun Chujio said that, she immediately gave each of them 500,000 high-grade spirit stones and a few spirit tools to everyone. Chu Feng and the 6 people from the mysterious Fog sect were so shocked that they didn't have any reaction. During the trial they still robbed? Was this good? Also, this Yun Chujio didn't look like a disciple of a famous sect. She was simply a female robber. Chapter 4105, Miss Zhang will send you on your way. It took Chu Fong and the 6 people from the mysterious fog sect quite a while to come back to their senses. One of the disciples from the mysterious fog sect said, Yun Chujio, aren't you afraid of being questioned by the Flying Flower Island when you go out by robbing them so brazenly? Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows. He is going to kill me, can't I get some money to spend? No matter how unreasonable Island Master Chi is, there's nothing to be afraid of. You don't have to worry. At most, you are just an accomplice. I will take care of everything. For some reason, Chu Fong and the others felt like they had boarded a pirate ship. Anyway, things had already happened, so it was useless to say anything now. Besides, no one didn't like money. It was not bad to make a small fortune out of thin air. Therefore, everyone tacitly agreed that no one would say anything else. Yun Chujio waved her hand, indicating for everyone to step back and start fishing again. This time she did not catch any fish, but instead she caught a phantom beast that looked like a cow and a tiger. When the phantom beast saw Yun Chujio, it howled and charged forward. It looked like it wanted to tear Yun Chujio into pieces. Yun Chujio turned around and ran. As she ran, she shouted, Hey little baby, why are you chasing me? You are a phantom beast, can't you just stay here? Can't you leave a little beauty in your short life? Why do you have to do such a cruel thing like eating people? Besides, I'm so beautiful, do you have the face to eat me? Chu Fong and the rest were speechless. What's the use of you kissing so much? The Mirage Beast was designed to attack the trial disciples. It would naturally attack when it saw a human. Would it give up because of your kissing? At this moment, Yun Chujio had already run to the place where they were hiding. Everyone did not have time to think and immediately began to surround and attack the Mirage Beast. Although the Mirage Beast was powerful, it was no match for them. Very quickly, it lost its ability to resist. Just as Chu Fong and the others were about to kill the Mirage Beast, Yun Chujio, who was hiding at the side, said, Wait, don't kill it first. Everyone didn't understand, but they still stopped attacking. Yun Chujio looked at the dying Mirage Beast on the ground and tried to establish a spiritual connection with it. However, she found that she couldn't succeed. She thought to herself, it seemed that the Mirage Beast here couldn't establish a temporary contract. Chu Fong and the others watched from the side. Finally, someone couldn't help but ridicule, Save it. These Mirage Beasts aren't demonic beasts from the outside. There's no way to successfully control them. Moreover, even if you can control them, your spiritual power level is much lower than theirs. There's no way for you to succeed. Yun Chujio frowned when she heard that. Then, she looked at the Mirage Beast in front of her and said indifferently, Your only mission in life is to attack humans, right? The Mirage Beast was quite intelligent. Naturally, it could understand Yun Chujio's words. However, it only stared at Yun Chujio with anger and bloodlust. It felt that Yun Chujio was talking nonsense. This little human girl was most likely sick. If she wanted to kill, then kill her. Why did she say so much nonsense? Yun Chujio sighed. Don't you feel that living like this is very cowardly? There's a saying that life is as beautiful as summer flowers, and your life is full of good things. The only memory left behind is that you attacked a few humans. Is it interesting? Before the Mirage Beast could react, Yun Chujio continued, I am also stupid. What's the use of talking to an uncultured idiot like you? I guess you think this is pretty good. Come, little sister, let me send you off and end your boring life. Chapter 4106. Her smile was really beautiful as Yun Chujio spoke. She raised the large kitchen knife in her hand. The phantom beast's eyes no longer had the anger and bloodlust from before, only fear and confusion. As Yun Chujio's large kitchen knife approached, it let out a low growl, mixed with unwillingness, resentment, and a little grievance. Was it going to die just like that? Although this little human girl was quite sick, there was one thing that was right. It had been muddled all its life. It did not know where it came from, nor did it know why it lived here. From the moment it became conscious, there was only one thought in its mind, and that was to attack the humans that had entered its territory. Its life was really sad. It closed its eyes and ended it. Perhaps its existence was a mistake. However, the pain that it had expected did not come. Instead, it heard the little girl's bell-like laughter. Little baby, little sister is just teasing you. Little sister is the kindest, why would she kill you? Go away, you are free. The mirage beast opened its eyes and saw Yun Chujio looking at it with a smile. Her smile was as pure as the bright sunshine. The magical beast looked at Yun Chujio in disbelief. It could not believe what it had heard. This little girl said to let it go? How was this possible? However, when it tried to stand up, the little girl did not move at all. Moreover, she had stopped her companions and allowed it to leave their encirclement. Was she really going to let it go? Yun Chujio waved her claws at it. Little baby, enjoy your life as a beast. I have high hopes for you. The mirage beast turned its head and looked at Yun Chujio's bright smile. For the first time, it had a definition of beauty in its heart. This little girl seemed to be different from other humans. Her smile was really beautiful. The mirage beast's footsteps paused, but it quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. The people from the mysterious fog sect looked at Yun Chujio as if she was a lunatic. Yun Chujio, what are you doing? It's a mirage beast, not a human. I can't understand what you're saying. Besides, aren't you afraid of its comeback? That's right. You're letting the tiger return to the mountain. When it finds help, we'll be in trouble. Also, don't forget that we're in a cooperative relationship. Besides, there are only two of you. Why should we listen to you? Straighten your position. Yun Chujio was not angry after hearing their words. She just smiled and said, I am willing to be the bait and scout the way. If any of you replace me as the bait, I will obediently listen to his arrangements. The moment Yun Chujio said that, the 6 people of the mysterious fog sect fell silent. They were not stupid. Walking at the front was like walking on a meat target. If they were in danger, the people behind them could abandon her and escape by themselves. Only a fool would be the bait. Seeing that they were silent, Yun Chujio did not continue the topic. Instead, she said faintly, sometimes demonic beasts have purer thoughts than humans. They want to take revenge on us. The 6 people from the mysterious fog sect scoffed. However, due to what happened just now, they did not say anything. In their hearts, they felt that Yun Chujio would be slapped in the face very soon. However, that did not matter. At worst, they could just abandon her and escape. Chu Fong revealed some worry on his face. However, when he thought of Yun Chujio's Black Lotus attribute, he did not dare to say it out loud. He would just do whatever she said. Chapter 4107 Tortoise and 8 Sects. Everyone paused for a moment and continued to walk forward. Perhaps it was because Yun Chujio's bait was too eye-catching, and they did not walk far before they caught 2 disciples from the Ascension Island. When the 2 disciples from the Ascension Island saw that Yun Chujio was alone and her spiritual power was so low, they felt that this was something that could be solved with their eyes closed. However, when they thought that they had succeeded, they were beaten black and blue by Chu Fong and the others who rushed over. Yun Chujio held a big kitchen knife and started to rob the money. Senior brothers, weren't you very arrogant just now? Why are you all mute now? Hand over your valuables or else this trial island will be your grave. You are violating the rules. If we don't hand them over, do you really dare to kill us? The 2 disciples from Ascension Island were filled with hatred and fear. They were a little confused. These people were clearly not from the same sect. Why were they mixed together? TSK, are your brains not working? Rules? Here, my big kitchen knife is the rules. Who knows that we killed you? After all, it's normal to be bitten to death by the mirage beasts here, right? He'll count to 3. If you don't pay, he'll cut off your limbs first, then he'll kill you. 1, 2. The 2 disciples saw that Yun Chujio was serious and couldn't take it anymore, so they hurriedly shouted, pay, well pay. After they paid the money, Yun Chujio let the 2 people activate the jade tokens and disappeared on the spot. Yun Chujio divided the money in her hands evenly among the people. Although Chu Fong and the people of the mysterious fog sect were still a little uncomfortable, it was much better than the first time, and there was even a hint of joy in them. However, this joy did not last long because they had unfortunately met the people of the 9 pavilions, and there were as many as 10 of them. Everyone's head buzzed. They had no intention of fighting back. The spiritual power of the people of the 9 pavilions was higher than theirs, and there were 2 more people than them. Even if they tried their best, they still had no chance of winning. The leader of the Xuanwu sect said to the people of the 9 pavilions, everyone, there's no need for you to do anything. We will activate the jade token ourselves. After saying that, the disciple was about to activate his jade tokens when he was stopped by Yun Chujio. She said coldly, is your mysterious fog sect so useless? Don't you even have the courage to fight? The disciple said with some embarrassment and annoyance, what do you know? The people of the 9 pavilions were generally 1 to 2 levels higher than us in terms of spiritual power. Moreover, we have 2 fewer people than them. Moreover, you are just a passerby. If you don't surrender, are you waiting to be tortured? Yun Chujio snorted. It seems that your Xuanwu sect is only SOSO. At the critical moment, you are just cowardly turtles. Why don't you change your name to Turtle Son of Bitch Sect? The 6 disciples of the Xuanwu sect were almost angered to death. Immediately, they did not bother to activate the jade tokens and began to attack Yun Chujio and Chu Fang. No matter what, they had to deal with this wretched girl first. The people from the 9 pavilions were dumbfounded. They were already puzzled when they saw the people from the mysterious fog sect and the nameless sword sect mingling together. Why were they fighting now? As they were a little dumbfounded, when the battle spread to the vicinity of one of them, he subconsciously dodged his body. Yun Chujio jumped out from the gap, Chu Fang followed closely behind, and the people from the mysterious fog sect followed closely behind. At this moment, Yun Chujio shouted in a low voice, "A bunch of idiots. If we don't run now, when will we? Retreat." The people of the mysterious fog sect were stunned for a moment, but they quickly reacted and ran wildly behind Yun Chujio. The people of the 9 pavilions, damn it, they were fooled. Chase. Chapter 4108. Our meat is delicious. Chu Fang panted as he ran and said, "Junior Sister Yun, we can't run like this. Their spiritual power is higher than ours. Sooner or later they will catch up with us." Yun Chujio didn't say anything. She didn't have a good idea, but she was disqualified just like this. She was really unwilling. How embarrassing. Of course, what this guy cared about more was that he had only robbed 3 people. If he left now, wouldn't it be a pity? A disciple of the mysterious fog sect said, "Yun Chujio, I heard that Tower Master Luochen of the 9-storied pavilion asked to marry you, didn't he? Why don't you talk to them and let us go? Why are we being chased like stray dogs?" Yun Chujio felt disgusted when she heard Tower Master Luchen's words. She said snappily, "Don't mention that scum in front of me. Besides, if those people had the intention to let us go, they wouldn't have surrounded us just now." The 6 people of the mysterious fog sect felt that Yun Chujio had a problem with her brain. Every woman in the world was clamoring to marry Tower Master Luochen, but she actually avoided them. However, what she said made sense. The people of the 9 pavilions didn't show any mercy at all. It seemed that in Tower Master Luchen's heart, this Yun Chujio was nothing. While they were talking, the people of the 9 pavilions were getting closer and closer to them. The 6 people of the mysterious fog sect had the idea to activate the jade token again, but they heard Yun Chujio say to them, "Don't you want to make a fortune? Don't you want to make a name for yourself in the sect? Do you want to give up just like that? A bunch of cowards." The faces of the 6 people from the mysterious fog sect flushed red. Of course, they didn't want to leave with their tails between their legs, but how could they possibly defeat those people from the 9 pavilions? In fact, Yun Chujio didn't have any good ideas. If she wasn't afraid of exposing her secret, she could use the strength of 8 people to deal with those people from the 9 pavilions. The problem was that she didn't want to expose her secret. Just as Yun Chujio was worrying, she heard a few beast roars. She looked towards the source of the sound and saw 3 mirage beasts running over from the bushes. The people of the mysterious fog sect saw that it was over. There were demonic beasts in front of the pursuers, so they could only choose to give up. Yun Chujio's eyes lit up. This guy was best at borrowing beasts to kill people. She waved her claws at the 3 mirage beasts in front of her and shouted, "My lords, we are here to offer ourselves. Come and eat us. Our meat is very delicious." The people of the mysterious fog sect all widened their eyes. This Yun Chujio had completely gone mad. They actually imagined that she had a way to escape. Bullshit. It was better to activate the jade token as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, Yun Chujio gave them a sign to stay calm. They gritted their teeth and waited to see what this Yun Chujio was up to. The 3 mirage beasts were also dumbfounded. Although their knowledge was limited, they knew that all humans were afraid of death. Could these people be the legendary fools? However, they thought that it would be a waste not to eat them. Who cared if they were fools or not? Therefore, the 3 mirage beasts growled as they approached Yun Chujio and the others. Everyone even saw that the mouths of the 3 demon beasts were already drooling. Chu Fang and the others felt their legs go weak. They held the jade tokens tightly in their hands. They were prepared to activate the jade tokens immediately if something went wrong. However, Yun Chujio was still smiling as she said, My lords, not only do we have to sacrifice ourselves to you, we have also brought you reserve rations. Do you see the 10 people behind us? Those are the delicacies that we have carefully selected for you. Chapter 4109 Joined forces. Chu Feng and the others' faces were stiff. What was going on? Could the 3 mirage beasts believe what she said? The 3 mirage beasts looked into the distance and saw 10 people running towards them. However, did this little girl really think that they were fools? Those 10 people were chasing after them, right? Humans were really a species that was full of lies. The 3 mirage beasts roared in anger. Chu Feng and the others were so scared that they were about to activate the jade tokens in their hands when they heard Yun Chujio continue. My lords, do you think that I want to use you to kill them? Yes, you guessed it right. I didn't want to lie to you in the first place. After all, you are all so intelligent. I can't lie to you at all. Chu Feng and the rest were even more confused. Yun Chujio had told them the truth. What was she trying to do? The 3 mirage beasts were stunned. However, after hearing Yun Chujio's praise for them, their roars calmed down for the time being. My lords, we hate those 10 people to death. That's why we came up with such a desperate idea. In addition, those 10 people are from the 9 pavilions. Of course, you have probably never heard of the 9 pavilions. In short, that 9 pavilions is not something. Their favorite thing is to kill mirage beasts. Countless mirage beasts have died in their hands. They even said that mirage beasts are the lowest species in the world. They are nondescript monsters and brainless trash. Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the 3 mirage beasts were about to explode. Their long fur stood on end as they let out an earth-shattering roar. At this moment, the 10 people from the 9 pavilions had already caught up. They were less than 1,000 feet away from Yun Chujio and the others. They only heard the roars of the 3 mirage beasts and did not hear Yun Chujio's previous words. They couldn't help but gloat over Yun Chujio's misfortune. It seemed that the 8 people in front of them would be eliminated without their help. When the roars of the 3 mirage beasts quieted down a little, Yun Chujio lowered her voice and said, My lords, how about this? Well, take care of the 10 people together and then you 3 will eat us. Anyway, you're so strong. You won't be afraid of us little dregs, right? The 3 mirage beasts looked at each other. This idea was not bad. With their strength, they had no certainty of winning against those 10 people. If they worked together with these 8 scums, they would have a good chance of winning. Moreover, these 8 scums were as timid as mice at a glance, so they were not afraid of them playing any tricks. Therefore, the 3 mirage beasts nodded and agreed with Yun Chujio's idea. Yun Chujio immediately beamed with joy and said, The 3 lords are indeed wise. Let's go. Let's finish off those stored rations first before eating us. We can die without regrets. As Yun Chujio spoke, she took the lead and leaped towards the people from the 9 pavilions. Chu Feng and the others' legs went weak as they staggered and followed her. This Yun Chujio actually managed to convince the 3 mirage beasts? How was she going to escape in a short while? Was she going to activate the jade token? However, this was also good. At the very least, the people from the 9 pavilions would not benefit from this. The 10 people from the 9 pavilions were originally watching the show calmly. Who would have thought that Yun Chujio and the others would actually lead the 3 mirage beasts to attack them? What was going on? Why would the 3 mirage beasts help them? Before they could react, Yun Chujio and the 3 magical beasts had already arrived. Without any explanation, the 2 sides fought together. Chapter 4110 The Plan of the Flying Flower Island. For a moment, the screams of people and the roars of mirage beasts mixed with the light of spiritual power attacks, intertwined together. At first, the 3 mirage beasts were still staring at Yun Chujio and the others warily, but seeing that they were fully focused on fighting with the people of the 9 pavilions, they gradually let down their guard. Although the strength of the 10 people of the 9 pavilions was extraordinary, the 3 mirage beasts were powerful, and with the help of Yun Chujio and the others, they soon fell into a disadvantage. A few of them were seriously injured and activated their jade tokens directly. When the 3 mirage beasts saw that the people had disappeared without a reason, they became even more irritated and angry, and their attacks became even more fierce. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. She felt that the time was right, so she made a gesture to Chu Feng and the 6 people from the mysterious fog sect to escape. Chu Feng and the others were stunned. They thought that they were going to activate their jade tokens, but it seemed like they were going to escape? Could they escape? Yun Chujio made another gesture to raise the spiritual energy shield. Although Chu Feng and the others didn't understand, they still did it. Almost at the same time that they raised the spiritual energy shield, Yun Chujio threw out a few big sacks. The chili powder inside flew in all directions. Whether it was the remaining people of the 9 pavilions or the 3 mirage beasts, they were all choked to the point of tears. They couldn't even open their eyes. Yun Chujio took Chu Feng and the others and ran away. The 8 of them ran all the way until the sky was dark. Only then did they find a leeward place to sit down on the ground, breathing heavily. This day could be said to be soul-stirring. They had thought that they were going to be eliminated, but they actually escaped? At this time, the 6 people of the mysterious fog sect looked at Yun Chujio with less contempt and more fear. Although Yun Chujio's spiritual power was very low, she was full of bad ideas. If they provoked her, they would not have a good ending. After they had eaten, except for the 2 people in charge of guarding, the rest of them began to meditate and rest. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came from afar. Everyone was shocked. Yun Chujio made a hand gesture, indicating that everyone should disperse and act according to the situation. Chu Feng and the rest were already used to Yun Chujio's arrangements, so they did not hesitate to hide themselves and carefully looked into the distance. Yun Chujio saw the people coming and narrowed her eyes. It was actually people from the Flying Flower Island. And with a quick glance, there were at least 15 people. Could it be that they were all teleported to the same place? Junior Sister Xiaoyu, why is the trial island so much easier than usual? With such difficulty, wouldn't our Flying Flower Island lose miserably in the end? After all, there are only 20 of us. That's right, Junior Sister Xiaoyu. I've been to the trial island before. The island is filled with danger and there's danger everywhere. How can this be? What's going on? Xiaoyu pursed her lips, then she said, "This is Master's brilliance. Let them be numb for a moment, and they will think that this trial island is nothing more than this. When the real test comes, there won't be many people left on this trial island." When the disciples of the Flying Flower Island heard this, they all came to a sudden realization. One after another they flattered, "The sect leader is indeed clever." Not to mention other things, almost all of us have been teleported to the same place. There are at least dozens of disciples who have been eliminated along the way. How delightful. In this year's competition, only the 9 pavilions can slightly suppress us. The other sects can't compete with us at all. Ascension Island thought that they could compete with us, but unfortunately they were teleported too close to us. We've already eliminated nearly 20 people, haha. Chapter 41:11 asked if they were angry. The people of the Flying Flower Island were talking and laughing happily. Junior Sister Xiaoyu, it's a pity that we didn't meet that stinky girl Yun Chujio. Otherwise we would have killed her to avenge you. That's right. That stinky girl can't be compared to our Junior Sister Xiaoyu in any way. Tower Master Luochen has fallen in love with that bitch for some reason. Junior Sister Xiaoyu is so outstanding. Sooner or later, Tower Master Luochen will know who is the pearl and who is the target of the fish. Xiaoyu snorted coldly. There's no need to pay attention to that slut for the time being. The important matter is more important. While the sky is dark, we'll eliminate a few more people. Everyone agreed one after another and walked far away. Fortunately, their attention was on each other's conversation and they didn't discover Yun Chujio and the others who were hiding in the dark. After a while, Yun Chujio and the others confirmed that it was impossible for them to return, and then they let out a sigh of relief. Damn it, the people of the Flying Flower Island are too cunning. This is blatant cheating. When other sects were hosting, although they had the power of landlords, they were not so shameless. Exactly, they are too shameless. More than 10 people from the Flying Flower Island were teleported to the same place, and they are very familiar with the terrain here. When they meet people from other sects, it is like chopping melons and vegetables. It seems that most of the people around here have been eliminated. It is difficult for us to meet up with other sections. What's the use of insisting? Why don't we activate the Jade token and go out now? Yun Chujio secretly put the recording stone in her hand into her storage ring. She had recorded the words of those people from the Flying Flower Island. This thing might be useful. She narrowed her eyes. The Flying Flower Island was indeed quite shameless. She was afraid that her original plan would have to be adjusted. There were no other disciples in the vicinity. Moreover, if they continued to move forward, they might encounter the people from the Flying Flower Island. Therefore it was best to stay put. When the so-called crisis erupted, she would act according to the circumstances. However, before that, she had to inspire the fighting spirit of these 6 idiots. In comparison, this fellow felt that Chu Fang was really too easy to worry about. He would do whatever she said. How would this fellow know that ever since Chu Fang found out that she had tricked Zhuang Hong, his heart had almost collapsed from fear? How would he dare to go against her? Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and said to the 6 people of the Black Fog sect, "Senior brothers, do you know why I resolutely decided to form an alliance with you previously?" The 6 people were stunned and looked at Yun Chujio in confusion. They didn't know why she suddenly said that. Yun Chujio continued, "This is because I see that the 6 senior brothers are people who will soar into the 9 heavens sooner or later. After interacting with each other for a day, my opinion has been confirmed. The 6 senior brothers are indeed the elites of the mysterious Fog sect. If it weren't for the 6 senior brothers who turned the tide, Senior Brother Chu and I would have been eliminated long ago." Although the 6 people of the mysterious Fog sect knew that Yun Chujio was flattering them, who wouldn't want to hear good words. Therefore they kept silent and prepared to hear what Yun Chujio would say next. "Senior brothers, you saw the face of that scoundrel from the Flying Flower Island just now. I'm asking if you are angry?" Yun Chujio gnashed her teeth and asked. The 6 people from the mysterious Fog sect immediately cursed. Of course they were angry. The people from the Flying Flower Island were too shameless. When Yun Chujio saw their irrepressible anger, a glimmer of light flashed in her eyes. The fish had taken the bait. Chapter 41. Surging sea water. Yun Chujio let out a faint sigh. "To be honest, senior brothers, I'm even angrier than all of you. All of you have heard it too. That little bitch Xiao Yu wants to kill me. But is it useful to be angry? No matter how angry we are, the Flying Flower Island will still obtain the 2nd place in the end. It's also possible to obtain the 1st place." Hearing that, the 6 people of the mysterious Fog sect were a little discouraged. Yes, what was the use of being angry? They could only watch the Flying Flower Island scheme succeed. "Senior brothers, I have an idea. If it succeeds, I will make all of you become the heroes of the mysterious Fog sect. Do you want to hear it?" Yun Chujio said mysteriously. The 6 people of the mysterious Fog sect said anxiously, "If you have something to say, just say it. Don't keep us in suspense." Now, I don't think there are any more of our fellow disciples around us. Moreover, if we advance rashly, we might encounter the people of the Flying Flower Island. We are not their match, so the only thing we can do now is to lay low for the time being. Didn't Xiao Yu say that there would be a crisis? When the time comes, we will wait for an opportunity to make a move. Perhaps, we might be able to fish in troubled waters and have a chance to eliminate those people from the Flying Flower Island. Even if we don't succeed, you guys will still be able to stay until the end. That would be a very honorable thing. Yun Chujio said with a smile. The 6 people from the mysterious Fog sect instantly revealed a somewhat yearning expression. If at that time most of the people would be eliminated but they stayed at the end, regardless of whether it was the sect master or their fellow disciples, they would all look at them in a new light. This was indeed very impressive. Chu Feng watched Yun Chujio's performance from the side and lit a candle for the 6 people from the mysterious Fog sect. Junior sister Yun had firmly grasped their weakness and was afraid that in the end, she would be betrayed by junior sister Yun and would have to help count the money. However, he was not optimistic about the future. That Xiao Yu said that the peace in front of them was only temporary and that there would be an even greater danger coming. When that time came, would they be able to endure it? The next day, Yun Chujio and the others did not continue searching for their fellow disciples. Instead, they found a place to hide and were prepared to stop the storm with silence. Nothing unusual happened during the entire day. Not even a mirage beast appeared. The more it was like this, the more anxious everyone was. The calmer the storm was, it meant that the storm was coming even fiercer. What kind of sinister test was Flying Flower Island brewing? The sky gradually darkened. Yun Chujio and the others did not dare to rest, afraid that something would happen. However, it was already midnight and nothing unusual happened. A disciple of the Xuanwu sect mumbled, "It seems that nothing will happen today. Tomorrow is the last day. I guess it will only happen tomorrow." Before the disciple could finish his sentence, something strange happened, and the sea water suddenly surged up. This was not the most frightening thing. After all, cultivators could hold their breath in the water for a period of time even if they did not rely on waterproof beads. The terrifying thing was that along with the sea water came ferocious sea beasts. Yun Chujio and the others were now surrounded by two sea beasts in the middle. Chu Fong and the others were panicking. So this was the plan of the Flying Flower Island. It was too fucking evil. They were not a sect of the island and were not good at fighting in the water. Moreover, they were told to train on the island at the beginning and did not say that they would train in the sea. They were not prepared at all. Now it seemed that not to mention their sects, even the 9 pavilions might not be a match for the Flying Flower Island. The Flying Flower Island would definitely win this competition. Even if they were unwilling, they could only give up. Chapter 41:13 The sea is full of water. A few people from the mysterious fog sect wanted to activate the Jade token. No matter what they did, they would lose. Why would they persist? Forget it. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart when she saw their actions. If she had no other choice, she would not have bothered with these 6 idiots. However, she was in urgent need of manpower. Even if she did not fancy 100 of them, she could only make do with them. Hence, she handed each of them a handful of waterproof beads. The 6 people from the mysterious fog sect were stunned. Yun Chujio actually had waterproof beads on her body? She had prepared too well. With these waterproof beads, they felt a little more at ease. They all had gold spiritual roots. Although they could not compare to water spiritual roots in the water, they were still much stronger than fire spiritual roots and earth spiritual roots. At the very least, they could still use wind blades to attack. At this time, the 2 sea beasts had already launched their attacks. Countless water arrows shot towards everyone. Everyone dodged while using wind blades to fight back. However, the speed and attack power of the wind blades were greatly reduced in the water, so the situation was not optimistic. Yun Chujio had no choice but to release De Hua. Chu Fong and the others were speechless when they saw the 4-legged De Hua. What was the use of releasing this thing? However, they soon saw De Hua's body grow bigger and bigger, and the color of her body also turned black. De Hua lazily swam towards one of the sea beasts, and did not even dodge the water arrow that the sea beast shot at her. Chu Fong and the others were very uncertain. Yun Chujio's spiritual beast looked very big, but could it be a match for the sea beast? However, they did not have time to think too much and quickly followed Yun Chujio to attack the other sea beast. Yun Chujio raised her hand and took out several small purple needles. Chu Fong and the others were shocked again. What was this thing? Was it also a materialization of spiritual power? But what kind of offensive power could this small needle have? Was it playing? The sea beast thought the same way. Such a small spiritual needle would not hurt it at all. Therefore it did not dodge and continued to pounce on Yun Chujio and the others. Following that, the sea water was filled with the sound of continuous explosions, accompanied by the miserable cries of the sea beast. The sea water around it was also covered with blood-colored water. Chu Fong and the others were dumbfounded. What did they see? Those purple needles could actually explode? Oh my god, this Yun Chujio is a monster, right? Yun Chujio was simply speechless at these 7 idiots. Is this the time to be in a daze? She should take advantage of his illness to take his life. Thus, she fiercely kicked the disciple beside her and took the lead to rush towards the sea beast that was rolling around with a headache. Only then did Chu Fong and the rest regain their senses and also rushed over. The sea beast had already been injured by the small purple needle and was naturally not a match for Yun Chujio and the rest. After a battle, it finally died. At this time, another sea beast finally dispersed De Hua and rushed towards Yun Chujio and the others aggressively. Then it saw another De Hua being pulled out in despair. After Yun Chujio and the others killed the remaining sea beast with De Hua, they floated to the surface of the sea. As far as the eye could see, there was no end to the sea. Not to mention land, there was not even an island. A disciple of the Xuanwu sect sighed and said, "Junior Sister Yun, although you gave us the waterproof bead, we can't stay in the water forever. Let's activate the Jade token." Yun Chujio had always despised these 6 people. Now they wanted to give up several times. Her small face sank and she said with a cold tone, "Give up? I even suspect that you are not cultivators. You want to give up after such a little suffering? Do you still want to cultivate the great Tao? Forget it, I can't be bothered to persuade you. If you are willing to give up, then give up." Chapter 41:14 I have a boat. The 6 people from the mysterious fog sect were embarrassed when they heard Yun Chujio's words. For a moment they didn't know whether to give up or persist. Chu Fang saw that the atmosphere was a little awkward, so he quickly smoothed it out. Senior brothers, junior sister Yun is also anxious, so her tone is a little heavy. For the sake of the sect's glory, we naturally have to persist, right? The 6 people from the mysterious fog sect looked at each other. Since there wasn't any danger for the time being, it was fine to persevere. Thus, one of the disciples said, "Junior brother Chu, we don't want to give up either. It's just that we're trapped in the sea right now. In the long run, our physical strength and spiritual power will decrease drastically. If we were to encounter another attack from the sea beasts or the people from the Flying Flower Island, we really won't be able to hold on. So it would be great if we had a boat. At least we would be able to catch our breath for a while. It's just that we don't have a boat." "I do," Yun Chujio said faintly. "Yes, I know you don't have one either. This is normal. Who would have thought that the Flying Flower Island would be so sinister and the boat would be so expensive? We don't have a boat either." What did you say just now?" "I said I have a boat." Everyone's eyes were fixed on Yun Chujio. Did they hear wrongly? She said she had a boat? Yun Chujio waved her hand and a boat appeared on the surface of the sea. Although it did not look like a high-grade boat, it was already very, very rare for them now. Everyone did not have time to say anything and hurriedly climbed onto the big boat. One by one they collapsed on the deck. The feeling of standing firmly on the ground was too damn good. Only Yun Chujio stood at the bow of the ship and looked around. She didn't think that the Flying Flower Island was so simple to get them into the sea. The spiritual power of the 2 sea beasts that attacked them previously wasn't high, and there was probably an even more dangerous test. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, the sea surface that was originally calm suddenly became stormy, and it became bigger and bigger. The huge waves instantly overturned their ship into the water, and it sank to the bottom of the water. Fortunately, the few of them had waterproof beads. Otherwise, even if they could save their lives, they would still be in a very difficult situation. One of the people from the mysterious fog sect shouted, "Let's dive to the bottom of the sea. This way we can avoid the wind and waves." Yun Chujio shouted, "Are you going to dive to the bottom and wait to be fed to that bastard? Why do you think there is such a big wind and waves? It's just to force the participants to the bottom of the sea. There must be an even more sinister trap at the bottom of the sea." Although the person from the mysterious fog sect was somewhat annoyed by Yun Chujio's roar, he thought that what she said made sense and could only say embarrassedly, "Then what should we do? Just stay in the water like this? I reckon that the storm should be intermittent. Just grit your teeth and endure it. After all, if the storm continues like this, the people of the Flying Flower Island won't be able to endure it," said Yun Chujio. Chu Fang and the others could only grit their teeth and persevere. Fortunately, they had waterproof beads so they could hold on for a period of time. Finally, after 2 hours, the wind and clouds dissipated, and everything returned to calm. While everyone was happy, someone sighed. "It's a pity that our ship sank to the bottom of the sea. Even if there are no more wind and waves, we can only soak in the water." "I still have a boat," Yun Chujio said faintly. "Sai, I know you don't have a boat. After all, boats are so expensive. How can you have 2? What? You said you still have a boat?" Yun Chujio was too lazy to talk nonsense with these idiots. She directly summoned another boat. Chu Fang and the others only had one thought. This Yun Chujio was too damn rich. Chapter 41:15 Gordal. After everyone was stunned, they couldn't wait to climb onto the big ship. After all this trouble, it almost took half of their lives. They had to make some adjustments. Yun Chujio ate some food and said, "I guess this storm will definitely come again. The number of waterproof beads is limited. We have to think of a way." Actually, this guy still had a lot of waterproof beads, but this guy was stingy. Everyone looked at each other. Think of a way? Think of a way? They were not water-type spiritual roots. If they did not use waterproof beads, they would not be able to withstand such a big storm. Yun Chujio rummaged through her storage ring and finally her eyes lit up. This guy took out a bunch of large calabashes from the storage ring. These large calabashes were dried by Yun Chujio's hairball. Originally, she planned to keep them for the drifters to play with. Now they could be used as a life buoy. Yun Chujio gave each of them 2 gourds and asked them to tie them around their waists. As the gourds were light and big, it was enough to ensure that they would not sink into the water. Chu Fang and the others were dumbfounded. Could this thing work? Yun Chujio did not waste any time. She kicked a disciple of the mysterious fog sect into the sea. The disciple was about to scold her when he realized that the 2 gourds around his waist really made him float on the sea. Everyone was immediately delighted. With these things they could hold on for a while. Anyway, the trial would end tomorrow morning. If they gritted their teeth and persevered, they might really be able to hold on until the end. Just as everyone was chatting and laughing, another storm arose. Yun Chujio learned from her mistakes and did not wait for the storm to grow before she kicked Chu Fang and the others into the sea. Then she stored the boat into her storage ring. What a joke. No matter how rich she was, she could not waste it like this. Chu Fang and the others struggled in the sea for nearly 2 hours with the big gourd on their waists. Finally, the sea returned to its calm state. They climbed onto the big boat and collapsed on the deck. Although the big gourd could guarantee that they wouldn't drown, the wind and waves were also very uncomfortable on their faces. It was very exhausting. Chu Fang realized later that Yun Chujio wasn't tied to the gourd. He asked in confusion, "Junior sister Yun, why aren't you tied to the gourd?" Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "I still have some waterproof beads in my hands. Besides, I'm such a pretty little girl. How ugly would it be if I tied those two things? You guys are different. You're already ugly. It doesn't matter how ugly you are." Chu Fang and the others, they finally realized that it was most likely because they had boarded her pirate ship. Now her words were getting more and more sarcastic. Yun Chujio suddenly started giggling. This was because when this fellow saw Chu Fang and the others, a familiar melody appeared in his mind. Gourd doll, 7 flowers on a vine. Chu Fang was a little scared by this fellow's laughter. He decided to change the topic. "Junior sister Yun, the trial will end tomorrow morning. I'm afraid it will be very difficult to endure tonight. Furthermore, we haven't seen any other trial disciples up until now. We don't know if it's because they are different from our region, or if they have already been eliminated by the people of Flying Flower Island." Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. "Perhaps we are all separated from the trial at the moment, so we should be gathered together in the end. Just thinking about personally beating up that little bitch Xiao Yu makes me a little excited." The corners of Chu Fang and the others' eyes twitched violently. It was not certain who would beat up who. If they had a choice, they would rather not meet anyone from the Flying Flower Island. Chapter 41:16. I want to confess something to all of you. In the following period of time, there would be huge waves every 2 hours. Chu Fang and the rest had huge gourds tied around their waists. Although they were a little exhausted from being tormented, they were not in any danger. In the blink of an eye, it was daybreak. In another 4 hours, the trial would be over. Chu Fang and the rest let out a slight sigh of relief. As long as they could hold on for another 4 hours, they would be done. Unfortunately, while the idea was beautiful, the reality was cruel. The scene in front of everyone suddenly changed. The seawater suddenly disappeared and they returned to the island where the trial had been. While Chu Fang and the rest were still in a daze, Yun Chujio had already dragged them to hide behind a bush. Soon a voice was heard. "Junior sister Xiao Yu, there aren't many people left on the trial island, right? Our Flying Flower Island can be said to have achieved a complete victory this time. Previously in the sea, those landlubbers were almost eliminated. I reckon that even if there were some who managed to escape, there would be very few. In terms of numbers, they aren't as many as our Flying Flower Island. Even the 9 pavilions can only be ranked second this time. Junior sister Xiao Yu, Tower Master Luochen will definitely look at you in a new light this time. As for that Yun Chujio, she's probably long been eliminated. She's trash." Xiao Yu took out a jade slip and scanned it before saying, "Apart from us, there are only 8 people left on the trial island. Even if they are from the same sect, they can only be ranked second. Let's go. We don't need to search anymore. We just need to find a place to rest and wait for the competition to end." Xiao Yu's face was also very pleased. Although their Flying Flower Island had used some tricks in this competition, there was no lack of deceit in war. Even if others were unconvinced, they wouldn't be able to say anything. Following the voices, the people from the Flying Flower Island walked far away. After confirming that they had already walked far away, everyone heaved a sigh of relief and said one after another, "That scared me to death. That Xiao Yu actually has a way to know how many people are left on the trial island. The Flying Flower Island is really shameless." According to what she said just now, other than the people from the Flying Flower Island, there are only the 8 of us left. However, if there are no other people, the Flying Flower Island is the first place, so wouldn't our Xuanwu sect be the second place? We have made a great contribution. Ah. As soon as this person's words left his mouth, The other disciples of the Xuanwu sect immediately revealed joyful expressions. As long as they hid their tracks well, the second place would not run away. It was not in vain that they had suffered for the past 3 days. Yun Chujia's eyes flickered as she took out half a basin of meat buns. Senior brother is right. We only need to wait here. Come, let's eat something first. Everyone was really hungry. They took the buns and started eating. Seeing that they had finished eating the buns, Yun Chujio said faintly, "Senior brothers, I have something to confess to you." Everyone was stunned. "What is it?" "The buns are poisonous," Yun Chujio said slowly. "What? Yun Chujio, are you crazy? Why did you poison us?" The 6 people from the mysterious fog sect and Chu Fong were all dumbfounded. Yun Chujio curled her lips. "It's very simple. You have no fighting spirit now. As for me, if I want to kick the Flying Flower Island from the first place, I have to give you a bit of fighting spirit." When everyone saw how shameless Yun Chujio was, they were almost driven mad. You're shameless. Hand over the antidote immediately, or else don't blame us for not being polite." Chapter 41:17 was too wicked. Yun Chujio shrugged indifferently. "You've seen my methods. You can't beat me. If you don't believe me, you can try. You can also activate the Jade token, but when the time comes, don't even think about getting the antidote. Also, this poison of mine is a secret recipe found in an ancient cave abode. Others can't solve it. If you don't have my antidote, your bodies will start to fester and you'll only be left with a skeleton. TSK, that's really tragic. I can't even bear to continue." After listening to Yun Chujio's words, Chu Fong was a little better. He felt that as long as he was obedient, Yun Chujio wouldn't do anything to him. However, the 6 people from the mysterious fog sect were so angry that they were about to vomit blood. They had finally experienced what it meant to be shameless. What it meant to be sinister and cunning. At first, they thought that the Flying Flower Island was wicked enough, but they did not expect that Yun Chujio was even more wicked than them. They discussed with each other. To be honest, after interacting with each other for the past few days, they really did not dare to go head-to-head with Yun Chujio. Not to mention anything else, even that spiritual beast was very difficult to deal with. Most importantly, this stinky girl had poisoned them. What if she really fought to the death and refused to give them the antidote? What would they do then? Therefore, one of them gritted his teeth and said, "What exactly do you want?" "It's very simple. You guys follow me to deal with those scum from the Flying Flower Island. After the matter is done, not only will I help you detoxify the poison, but I will also let you guys make a small fortune." Yun Chujio said with a smile. However, she smiled like a wolf with a big tail. "Humph. That's easy for you to say. As you can see, there are only 12 people left on the Flying Flower Island. There are only 8 of us. How can we be their match? Junior Sister Yun, our Xuanwu sect is in 2nd place while your Nameless Sword sect is in 3rd place. Isn't that good? Don't cause any more trouble." The 6 people from the Profound Fog sect spoke in a flurry with only one goal, which was to make Yun Chujio give up the thought of fighting to the death with Flying Flower Island. The corners of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. "I have always held grudges. It would have been fine if another sect had gotten 1st place, but that little bitch, Xiaoyu, just happened to be an eyesore to me, so she wants to get 1st place? No way." The 6 people of the mysterious fog sect wished they could strangle her to death. "You don't like her, but if you have the ability, why don't you go fight it out yourself? Why did you have to drag them down with you? Who did they offend?" Chu Fong felt that it was time for him to make his appearance, so he began to smooth things over. "Senior brothers, although Junior Sister Yun's methods are, well, a little special. But think about it on the way here, if it weren't for Junior Sister Yun, we would have been eliminated long ago. The actions of the Flying Flower Island are so sinister, so let's listen to Junior Sister Yun." The 6 people from the Mystic Fog sect could only go down the slope. The main reason was that they didn't dare to disobey Hei Shinjio. However, what was she going to do? Would she be able to win 8 against 12? Yun Chujio spun around on the spot for a few rounds before her eyes lit up. She gathered the few of them together and started chattering. At this moment, the scene on the main island of the Flying Flower Island was very lively. Sect Master Huang of Xuanji Sect slapped the table. "Island Master Qi, you're really something. Is this what you call a fair competition? You initially said that you would train on the island, but why did you change it to a sea trial?" Island Master Qi smiled innocently. "Sect Master Huang, don't be so agitated. I only said that it would be a trial on Trial Island. When did I say that it would only be a land trial on Trial Island? Moreover, I've already done it fairly. Out of the 3 days of trial, only half of the time is spent on the ocean. The rest is spent on land. Our Flying Flower Island has only sent 20 people. Isn't this fair? Chapter 41:18 was too early. Sect Master Huang was about to explode from anger when he saw Island Master Chi's fake smile. Fair? It is indeed fair. Our Xuanji sect has been completely annihilated, and your Flying Flower Island is the only outstanding one. There are still 12 people left. Island Master Luo from Ascension Island snorted coldly. It would have been fine if it was just a sea scene. However, I heard from the eliminated disciples that more than 10 of your Flying Flower Island's disciples have been teleported to a place not too far away. They worked together to eliminate many of our disciples from Ascension Island who were left behind. Island Master Chi is really good at scheming. Island Master Chi spread out his hands. This is the uncertainty of the array formation. It wasn't controlled by me. Besides, aren't there 8 other people inside? Sect Master Chin of the Mysterious Fog Sect stroked his beard and didn't say a word. Although he also thought that the Flying Flower Island was too damn shameless, the current result was unexpectedly good for him. There were still 6 people left in the Mysterious Fog Sect. It was even better than expected that they could safely get second place. Moreover, the one who was most angry should be Tower Master Luochen, right? Every time the 9-tiered pavilion was first place, but this time they had been schemed against. They probably wouldn't let it go easily. However, to his surprise, Tower Master Luochen didn't have any special reaction. He just listened to everyone's conversation with an expressionless face. Master Ouyang of the Nameless Sword Sect was also a little dumbfounded. After counting the number of people, he found that there were 2 disciples of their sect on the Trial Island. Besides Elder Gust disciple Chu Fong, there was also Yun Chujio who was making up the numbers. Master Ouyang couldn't tell what he felt in his heart. Could it be that the successive disciples of their sect were not as good as Yun Chujio who was making up the numbers? At this moment, Tower Master Luochen, who had been silent, said coldly, "Everyone, don't be impatient. Before the final results are out, it's too early to say anything." The moment Tower Master Luochen said this, everyone was stunned. Too early to say? It ended in less than 4 hours, and judging from the number of people, the Flying Flower Island was firmly in first place. Could there be any unforeseen circumstances? Even if the other 8 people eliminated the animosity between the sects and joined forces, they would still not be a match for the Flying Flower Island. What unforeseen circumstances could there be? If there were any unforeseen circumstances, it was the Flying Flower Island that might eliminate those 8 people. When that time came, the Flying Flower Island would really stand out alone. When everyone thought of this, they looked at Island Master Chi angrily. They never thought that Island Master Chi would be so shameless. Island Master Chi looked at everyone calmly. He naturally knew what everyone was thinking, but this competition only happened once every 10 years. It was not easy for him to get the first place, so he naturally had to seize it. Moreover, although these people were dissatisfied, they couldn't do anything to him, so he didn't have any scruples at all. As for the final result, he wasn't worried at all. The first place would definitely go to their Flying Flower Island. At this moment, on Trial Island, Xiao Yu and the others were chatting and laughing merrily. They were extremely pleased with themselves. They felt that the first place was already a certainty. Moreover, there were 12 of them in total. Even Mirage Beasts wouldn't dare to attack them, so they were very relaxed. At this moment, someone noticed a figure in front of them flash and shouted loudly, "Junior Sister Xiao Yu, it's Yun Chujio." Xiao Yu suddenly stood up and saw that it was indeed Yun Chujio who was standing in the distance. She probably noticed them and ran away. A trace of viciousness flashed in Xiao Yu's eyes. This slut was actually not eliminated? In that case, she would personally send her on her way. Chapter 41:19 was running out of time. The people of the Flying Flower Island also stood up. Someone said, "Junior Sister Xiao Yu, just wait here. Let's go chase after her." Xiao Yu wished she could strangle Yun Chujio to death with her own hands. Naturally, she would not agree. She said, "5 people, chase after her with me. The rest of you stand by and wait for orders." Everyone did not have any objections when they heard this. Against a mere Yun Chujio, 6 people were enough. Xiao Yu brought 5 people and chased closely behind. However, Yun Chujio was slippery and she ran very fast. She was even more familiar with the terrain than they were. As she ran, she was boasting, "Xiaoyu, your flying flower island is really shameless. This is the first time I've seen such a shameless sect." But that's true. With such a shameless person like you, your flying flower island isn't any better? Chase me if you have the ability, then chase me. A bunch of trash, it'll anger you to death. Xiaoyu was about to explode from anger. In the blink of an eye, they had run nearly 10 li away. Yun Chujio stumbled as she ran and actually fell. Xiaoyu and the others naturally wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity. They immediately quickened their pace and pounced towards Yun Chujio. At this moment, a few large sacks were thrown down from the trees on both sides. The chili peppers inside were flying in all directions, accompanied by countless wind blade attacks. As for Hei Xingjiu who fell, she had already stood up. As she released a hua, she took out a treasured sword and rushed in front of Xiaoyu. This fellow did not say a word and slashed at Xiaoyu. Due to the cover of the flying chili powder, Hei Xingjiu used the sword technique on the cliff. Xiaoyu was already choked to the point of tears. How could she be a match for her? In the blink of an eye, her face was scratched. When the wound touched the chili powder, the feeling was extremely refreshing. Xiaoyu was furious and afraid. She did not have time to think too much and activated her jade token. Once Xiaoyu activated her jade token, the other 5 people instantly lost their backbone. After a round of fighting, they also activated their jade tokens. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes and said to Chu Feng and the others, "Let's go and deal with those 6 people." Chu Feng looked at the time. "Junior sister Yun, there's not much time left. We might not be able to deal with them. No matter what, we have to give it a try." Although Yun Chujio also felt that there was not enough time, she still had to give it a try. The remaining 6 people on the Flying Flower Island felt uneasy when they saw that Xiaoyu and the others had yet to return, but they also felt that nothing would happen. Just as they were hesitating, Yun Chujio and the others had already rushed over. If time allowed, Yun Chujio naturally wanted to split them up again and ambush them with chili powder, but there wasn't much time left, so she could only fight them head-on. In any case, they had the advantage in numbers. Even if they couldn't eliminate all of them, as long as one person was eliminated, Flying Flower Island's #1 spot would be gone. The 6 people from the Mystic Fog sect changed their previous unwillingness, as if they were injected with stimulants. As long as one person from Flying Flower Island was eliminated, their Mystic Fog sect would be #1. At that time, they would be the great heroes of the Mystic Fog sect, and their future prospects would be limitless. Although the 6 people from the Flying Flower Island did not know what had happened to Xiaoyu and the others, they knew that if one of them was eliminated, there would be no hope for them to be first. Hence, the 6 of them set up the Flying Flower Sword formation. Although the Flying Flower Island sword formation was not as powerful as the nameless sword sects, it was not given for free. In an instant, it was a draw with Yun Chujio and the others. Chapter 4120 was completely eliminated. Although Yun Chujio had seen through the flaws of the Flying Flower Sword array, it would take at least an hour to break the array. By then it would be too late. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. Just as she was about to release a few rabbits, a huge beast roar came from afar. A person from the Xuanwu sect said with a bitter face, "It's over. It's over. Isn't this the mirage beast that was released? Is it here to take revenge on us? It seems that we have no hope of getting first place. Let's retreat." Yun Chujio said happily, "Help is here." Chu Feng and the others were dumbfounded. Help? Should be an assassin. Chu Feng and the others felt that Yun Chujio was most likely crazy. It was already good enough that this mirage beast did not take revenge on them, but it was still helping them? In their dreams, the people from the Flying Flower Island were overjoyed. It seemed that this mirage beast had a grudge with Yun Chujio and the others. They took the opportunity to eliminate a person from the mysterious fog sect. The first place was still their Flying Flower Island. In the blink of an eye, the mirage beast had arrived in front of everyone. Yun Chujio said with a smile, "Come on, little baby. Help me kill these people." The mirage beast growled and indeed rushed towards the Flying Flower Island sword array. Chu Feng and the others were dumbfounded. Was it really here to help? Yun Chujio shouted at them, "Are you all dumbfounded? Hurry up." Only then did everyone come back to their senses. They followed Yun Chujio's instructions and specifically attacked the weak points of the Flying Flower Sword array. The people of the Flying Flower Island felt their heads buzzing. They really could not understand why this mirage beast would help Yun Chujio and the others. Furthermore, how could Yun Chujio easily determine the flaws of their flying flower sword array? Some of the flaws were not even known to them, alright? With the help of the mirage beast, the people of the Flying Flower Island quickly lost their ability to resist. They could only activate their jade tokens and be teleported out. At this moment, the atmosphere in the meeting hall of the Flying Flower Island was very stagnant. Although Sect Master Huang and the others were indignant, they couldn't turn the situation around. They could only stare at each other and wait for the final result. At this moment, a disciple of the Flying Flower Island ran in. Reporting to Island Master, reporting to all the Sect Masters. 6 disciples of the Flying Flower Island have been eliminated. Currently there are 14 people left on the Trial Island, 6 from the Flying Flower Island, 6 from the Mysterious Fog Sect, and 2 from the Nameless Sword Sect. What? Island Master Chi stood up immediately. 6 people from the Flying Flower Island had been eliminated? How was this possible? However, he quickly sat down. It was likely that the Mysterious Fog Sect and the Nameless Sword Sect had joined forces and fought together. Even if 6 people from the Flying Flower Island had been eliminated, the other party must have been severely injured. He believed that they would be eliminated very soon. The final champion would still be from the Flying Flower Island. The others had similar thoughts as him, and they did not have any expectations for the final result. Only Sect Master Chin of the Mysterious Fog Sect started to sweat profusely. He had some extravagant hopes in his heart. If one more person was eliminated from the Flying Flower Island, wouldn't the Mysterious Fog Sect become the champion? After a while, a disciple ran in panic. Reporting to Island Master, reporting to all the Sect Masters. All the disciples of the Flying Flower Island have been eliminated. Currently there are 8 people left on the Trial Island, 6 from the Mysterious Fog Sect, and 2 from the Nameless Sword Sect. Island Master Chi of the Flying Flower Island couldn't believe his ears. He stood up and asked, What? What did you say? The disciple said with some fear, Island Master, the last 6 people of our Flying Flower Island have also been eliminated. Island Master Chi was stunned for a moment and then sat down on the chair. Oh, how was this possible? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.